1, 2. There's the mic's not working. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Hello, this is Angela Nubia, and we're doing the People's Talk Show this Sunday. Turn it down. How can you bring it down? How would you turn? Angela Nubia on the People's Talk Show. This is Sunday the 25th of June. Now, let me know if you can hear me. If you can hear me. I actually hear myself. It's Angela Newbia on the People's Talk Show on genesisradio.co.uk, and we've got lots to talk about today. We are going to be talking about so much that has been happening within our community. We're going to be talking about a whole load of stuff. We have a discussion about a strong and stable leadership. We're going to give you an update on the Glenfield Tower fire fiasco. We've got so much to talk about this afternoon. Before we start talking, I'm just going to give you the number to call later on, so just hold tight. I'm going to see you in a bit. Yeah. Right, can somebody listen and ask me they can hear me then? Right? Genesis Radio. It's too high. It's still too high. Nubia on the People's Talk Show. I'm going to give you the number that you can call in. It's 07931 276 232. I'll give you that number again. It's 07931 276 232. It's Angela Nubia on the People's Talk Show, and we've got so much to talk about this afternoon. Okay, so as we know, the elections has gone and passed. The elections has gone and passed. And, there's a cliche about Calamity May's strong and stable leadership, as you know it, particularly in terms of people have been asking the question, why did she call the election? And I'm not sure why she called the election. You tell me, why did she call the election? Particularly, people are asking, why did she call the election? Was it because of the fact that the 20 MPs were due to be charged? And it was quite sort of concerning, particularly because she already had a 20 lead, particularly in terms of a majority. But also, people are asking, was it the fact that the 20 MPs were going to face corrupt election charges? And so those are the questions that we are posing here for discussion. So let's have a chat about that. And if the 20 MPs were charged before the election, she would have been down 20 already, wouldn't she? And so why was the election called in the first place? That's the question that we are asking, and I'm going to see you in a bit. Hello? Genesis Radio.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, Genesis Radio. Hi.
Can you hear me loud and clear?
Loud and clear.
Hello. All right, then that's good.
Okay.
That's good.
Great stuff.
All right, then enjoy your show.
Great. Blessings. Nubia on the People's Talk Show, and we are talking about the strong and stable leadership that we're faced with, particularly that Calamity May has made lots of blunders and U-turns, hasn't she? And so, Genesis Radio, how can I help?
Oh, yeah. At first you were cutting in and cutting out, but now is coming very clearly.
Good.
I can hear it on the internet, and I'm recording the show.
Are you?
Yes, rest assured that hopefully I'll put it up on YouTube. So I'll put the other people's talk show up on YouTube as well.
Oh, thanks,
my
channel
is Mr. Emma Clean. It is Mr. Clean.
Mr. Clean.
Can you hear?
Yeah,
yes,
I'm going to write that down.
Channel.
I'm going to write that down. Mr. Clean.
Clean, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Clean.
Yeah, I've got that. Thank you, Berger. That's
right,
good.
Then. I will phone up later on once you open up the subject.
Great, cheers.
Yeah, just wanted to let you know that you're clearer now.
Blessings,
Bye.
blessings. Thank you. Bye. Oh, isn't that good? Our regular caller telling me that I'm loud and clear on genesisradio.co.uk. About the gremlins and interruptions and ting. But, we're still keeping it moving. Okay, so, we're talking about Calamity May this afternoon. We're talking about a strong and stable leadership. Also, we're going to give you an update on the Glenfield Tower fiasco. And we're also going to be talking about, what's happening in our community. Particularly, we're going to be talking about later on justice for Edson. I mean, my God, do you remember what happened to that brother? I mean, so many of our brothers and, and sisters are dying in police custody. I mean, this is just unbelievable. We're going to be talking much more later on in the People's Talk Show. We're here with you between the hours of 2 and 6, as you know. And so I asked a question. I'm putting it out there. The number to call 07931 276 232. I'm going to say it a bit slower. 07931 276 232. Salute you, Bergen, who is apparently recording the show for a YouTube uplift. So you know how it goes. People just want to wipe us out sometimes, don't they, in terms of recording the show. And so here we go. So why did she call the election, I'm asking today? Why was the election called when she already had a clear 20 majority? I mean, why was the election called? Because as you know, she's been wiped out clean. She's sort of powerless. She's now relying on, the DUP for, some sort of coalition government. And they are also a bit sort of dubious to go to bed with her. So why was the election called in the first place? I mean, in light that, before the election, as we know, there was 20 MPs due to be charged. She had a clear 20 majority. And, those 20 MPs that were going to be charged, as we know, they were going to face corruption charges due to the election that actually happened in 2015. So for those of you that don't actually recall what happened in the election in 2015, then, we need to sort of, brace ourselves. Because if you remember, the election of 2015 was when, as you know, there was alleged election fraud in terms of the MPs declaring their expenses. Yeah? So that was what the 20 MPs were going to be charged with, if you remember. Okay, let me just take this caller. Good afternoon, Genesis People's Radio. How can I help? Good afternoon, Genesis People's Radio. You're live and direct. Hello? Okay, we can't hear you. Try and call again. Okay, that caller's going to try and call again. We don't know why he's not talking. Okay, and so as we mentioned before, so why was the election called? That's the question we're asking. So if you can answer me that question, 07931 276 232. Tell me, why was the election called when the Calamity May already had a 20 majority? Yeah, and so, she could have, according to her, it was because she wanted a stable and strong government in terms of exit. However, many people have a different view. What's your view on that? 07931 276 232. Why was the election called when she already had a 20 majority? And if you can remember that the 20 MPs, for those that are not actually afraid with the subject, the 20 MPs, okay, they face the risk of being prosecuted. Okay. Genesis Radio. Okay, somebody's playing here. We can't hear you, caller. So I'm not going to ask.
The police.
Hello?
Stop been sent up killing nigger. Fucking grateful.
Okay, we got an idiot man calling, talking about killing Niggers. Can you imagine? This is what these callers are calling about. So, yeah, anyway, we're going to continue, yeah? So the 20 MPs, obviously somebody doesn't want to talk. Somebody doesn't want me to talk about the 20 MPs, so I'm going to keep talking, yeah? So the 20 MPs, they were going to face being prosecuted for allegedly breaking election spending rules at the last election, whilst they were in the middle of fighting the re-election campaigns, yeah? And if you can remember, it was the Tory 2015 battle bus, yeah, that apparently had, it's been alleged, election spending rules, and it was alleged that it was breached in order for the wealthy backers to gain advantage during the election. And we all know about, the wealthy backers, don't we? Yep. And so I'm asking you the question again. Why was the election called when Calamity May had a clear majority? 07931 276 232. Okay. Some people have alleged that perhaps, it was called because, she wanted to take advantage of Labour's weak position. Because if you could remember, Labour was actually in a real weak situation at the time. They were looking really sort of feeble, weren't they? Yep. Corbyn wasn't looking too good. He was sort of having inward fightings within his own party, and also, the nasty media onslaught that was waged against him didn't make him look in good light. And so, it could be said that Calamity May took advantage of Labour's weak position in sorting out the country, and not in fact sorting out the country, in sorting out her party, because people are sort of dumbfounded. Why did she call the election? Particularly because, she was an unelected leader. And, people are of the opinion, you tell me, did she call the election in order to safeguard her position because she was an unelected leader? You tell me. 07931 276 232. Why did Calamity May call the election? Was it to do with safeguarding her party, or was it a party sort of cover-up in terms of the 20 MPs that were facing, prosecution? You tell me. I'm going to see you in a bit. GenesisRadio.co.uk. Caller?
Yeah, put me live.
Who's this?
Put me live.
Yep, you're live.
Fucking cunt.
Okay, so we got that mad caller again, sort of heroin profanity, some nutcase, trying to destabilise the show. So we're going to continue. Okay, so how we're going to continue is this. I'm going to give you that number again to call. 07931 276 232. Why was the election called in light that Calamity May already had a majority government in terms of the 20 MPs and that controversial battle bus that was going to face the MPs that were involved with that? I think there was 20 in terms of false accounting in terms of the election. As we know so well, Conservative Craig McKinley of South Thanet, he was the only one that was actually charged for the false declaring of expenses in the run-up to the vote, which saw him narrowly sort of defeating UKIP's Nigel Farage. And so was he the sacrificial lamb in terms of the fact that, as we know to date, that the fee was paid, wasn't it? I think there was a £7,000 fine. I think it was, or 70,000? Yeah, £70,000 fine was actually paid. The Conservatives, they apparently it was they had actually admitted in an article that appeared in the Independent on the 10th of May. The CPS announced that they will not be charging the Conservative candidates amid election spending allegations. This appeared in an article, as I mentioned, in the Independent on the 10th of May. They suggested that I'm going to give you this quote, what they've mentioned, this quote is quite alarming. And they've said, although there was evidence to suggest that victims may have been inaccurate. No, let me just read that again. Although they were evidence to suggest that returns may have been inaccurate, there was insufficient evidence to prove to the criminal standards that any candidate or agent was dishonest. I'm going to read that again. This is just alarming, isn't it? Listen to this. Although there was evidence, so there was already evidence to suggest that the returns may have been inaccurate. So there was evidence to suggest that the returns were inaccurate, that there was inaccurate recordings in terms of their expenses. However, they're saying that there was insufficient evidence to prove to the criminal standard that any candidate or agent was dishonest. I mean, that doesn't make any sense to me. Does that make sense to you? And so the Conservatives, this is the CPS that announced, and this has been reported in the Independent on the 10th of May, the Conservatives have already admitted under declaring spending on the national campaign in 2015, and they were fined 70,000. Yeah? And so, did they buy justice? So it was paid off. And so, no one's going to face any sort of criminal charges. And I know, so well, for those of you that own companies and, when you're doing your tax return, if you actually, are filing things, inaccurate, you can be fined. You could actually be sent to prison, for inaccurate, declarations. And so how come then these 20 MPs, they get away with it? So is there a law for the poor? Or is there a law for is there a law for the rich? We know this too well. And so I'm going to continue. The CPS announced this in the Independent on the 10th of May. The Met Police were also considering whether the treasurer at the time, and his name was Simon Day, knowingly or recklessly made a false declaration. So what type of thing this? I mean, what sort of cover up is this? I mean, good God. I mean, there's evidence to suggest that the returns were inaccurate. They're saying there's insufficient evidence to prove that any individual candidate or agent was dishonest, but yet they find Craig McKinley. He was the one that was charged, the South candidate, the South Thanet Conservative individual that won the election sort of, narrowly from Nigel Farage, and he was the only one that was actually charged. What type of mix up this? I'm going to see in a bit. You can call 07931 276 232. That's the number to get engaged with the show. It's the People's Talk Show on genesisradio.co.uk. Okay. It's Angela Nubia on the People's Talk Show. This is how we're doing it live and direct from genesisradio.co.uk. The number to call 07931 276 232. We're doing things a bit different here on the People's Talk Show, but we're asking the most poignant question to you, to the audience, to all the listeners, global listeners worldwide. Lots of discrepancies on why was the general election called in the first place, particularly as Calamity May. She said she wanted to offer us a strong and stable leadership. And she had a strong and stable leadership. She had a 20, majority. And now she's down to how much? How much is she down to? Give me a call, 07931 276 232. She has a minority government. As we know, she lost she lost her majority, isn't she? And now she has to form a coalition with DUP, who are also a bit sort of, dubious, about going into bed with her. The Conservatives won, as you know, the election by 318 to Labour's 262. And as you know, she tried to take advantage of the fact that Colby was looking a bit weak at the moment, was it at that point? Genesis Radio.
Oh, hello, it's me, Burchak.
How are you doing?
And now, she open up the topic, I'll talk about it.
Great stuff.
She, Teresa May, when you say Teresa May, she
Yeah.
had a higher status. Now, what happens is they fell into lower status. She fell into lower
Absolutely,
status.
absolutely.
There's a reason why this happened. And with most of the leaders then, after the Margaret Thatcher era, the leaders have fell into higher status then to lower status. That includes the prime ministers before, like John Major, Tony Blair, and now David Cameron fell into lower status because of the things that came out, the allegations, the things that was happening. Remember the pictures that they, and then now that David Cameron has gone, Theresa May took the place. And because David Cameron, at first he sounded good with all the promises, but he didn't make the promises well. And after those things that came out, they say so-called things that came out of David Cameron, and he had to go, then it was Theresa May. With Theresa May, all she has done, and I'm going to tell this now, I've got some bad news for you. My organisation, which does with hate crime, health, jobs, we speak up for people with learning disabilities. We're a self-advocacy group that has closed down in 2016. 17, gone.
When did it close down?
Everything has gone down, and because of her things that she has done...
Is it austerity cuts? Her austerity cuts? Is that why you've gone out of business?
No, because of the cuts that she made.
Yeah.
With all the cuts that's happened, our organisation has gone down, and I felt into tears.
Good
because
God.
we was speaking out for people with learning disabilities, and also hate crime does with everyone.
Really?
Black people, gay people, Chinese people. Hate crime is for everyone.
Yeah.
But most of the stuff was finding jobs for people. I mean, we went to a lot of good things. I don't want to go into that, but we did a lot of good things. And it's gone now. Gone, that group gone. And also now the regional forum is going to be cut. The national forum, which goes to the government, people stay there in Birmingham and say, I can't go because I'm not done the rep. But what I'm saying is that it goes to the government, and the government gets our voice heard. People on the high department of the government. That national forum is gone now.
The national forum is gone.
Yeah.
And that's down to austerity cuts. Because there was some talk, wasn't there, Bertrand, that some of the things that have closed down, I know we're going to be talking about Glenfield Tower fire disaster, or fiasco, should we call it?
I know.
Murder and manslaughter, yep. Corporate manslaughter, we're going to talk about later on in the show. But apparently it's been alleged that there's no austerity cuts anymore, and that the government shouldn't be blamed for that. And so it's really interesting. It's quite refreshing hearing from yourself as a community person, having your own sort of community service that has actually been impacted by this by the austerity cuts. So you're proof in the pudding, aren't you, Bertrand?
Sorry?
You're proof in the pudding, isn't it? That austerity cuts, along with a whole collection of people, we know the impact of austerity cuts, and so it's quite delusional to think that things that happen in the community is not as a result of austerity cuts, isn't it? No, what I'm trying to say is that obviously there's some things that I can't say because they're alleged, but the government's cutting back. Someone said to me, hearsay I heard, someone said to me that all of these cuts are for going to other different countries, which they should. I'm going to go back to Theresa May in a minute, but I'm going to put this fast, and I'm going to be as quick as I can because I know there's going to be other callers calling after this. I heard from someone, he stand up in the regional forum and he said that why is the government cutting all this? They spend it on Libya, they're spending it on other things, other countries which we don't even want to involve in their business, but they're making us involved into their business. They're cutting more and more, and guess what? They say, hearsay again, allegedly, hearsay, I heard this, that this person was saying that all the big, the super multi-billion corporations that make guns and weaponry, and they got money made from other people's unhappiness, they are getting back to their things. Not like before. Yeah, now, it's the arms deal, isn't it?
It goes back to them. So
Yeah.
all the taxes that paid, he say I had.
Yeah.
All the taxes that's been paid, it goes back to the big multi-million
Corporates, yeah.
corporations.
The fat
And
cats, the fat cats.
basically,
Yeah. Thanks for that.
yeah.
Thanks for
so,
that. Yeah.
go back into Teresa May now.
Yeah.
So, what she's, and I hope this alleged information, so it's not, but people are trying to expose it. But anyway, going back to Teresa May, she has made so much cut, and the way she came out the Glenfield Tower, and they said
Yeah, we're going to talk about that later on. Yeah, we're going to talk about that later on in the show.
I mean, I'm talking about her appearance.
Yeah,
when she came out, and she didn't feel that there was no sorry.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the Glenfield Tower tragedy
I'm not
later
talking
on.
About that Glenfield thing. I'm talking about her.
Yeah, I know.
The way
Yeah,
she's
it was said that
moment.
she was emotionless and stuff. But we're going to talk about that later. So thank you, Bertrand, for your contributions. I really appreciate that.
She wasn't handling it good.
No, she wasn't. She's made so many U-turns, hasn't she, Bertrand? So many U-turns in her government.
Minister,
yeah.
But I believe that Dwayne Brooks should be Prime Minister.
Really? Dwayne Brooks?
Yep. I believe
Okay,
that
you're recommending Dwayne
Dwayne
Brooks. Okay, thanks for your contribution. Okay, I'm going to speak to you later. Thank you, Bertrand. Brilliant. Okay, that's Bertrand. Bertrand is thinking Dwayne Brooks should be Prime Minister. I mean, what's your thoughts on that? It's the People's Talk Show, Angela Nubia, 07931 276 232. We're talking about Calamity May. As Bertrand said, he's a community person. He had his own organisation, supporting the disabled, people with learning difficulties, etc. And his community project has been terminated due to austerity cuts. And so to suggest that, we are not being impacted by austerity cuts, and to suggest that, there's no austerity cuts now, we're all fine, is absolutely ludicrous. Don't you think so? It's Angela Nubia on the People's Talk Show, 07931 276 232. And as we are mentioning, I'm still on this point. Okay, here we go. genesisradio.co.uk.
Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, we are on Genesis, are we?
You are, yes.
Right. Couple of issues before I get down to the meat of the subject.
And who are you? Who are you?
My name is Researcher. I reach the world and I have a message for the world. And so therefore, I deal in truth, not theories. And unfortunately, those who buy into theories, you get your hurt feelings when you encounter the truth.
Okay, so what would you like to say? What would you like to say?
Well, first thing is, I just threw down the gauntlet to anybody, your brightest and your best. I'm sick and tired of hearing people talk.
Okay, sorry, I'll put the question out there. Did you hear the question? Why was the election called in the first place? Was it to camouflage the corrupt 20 MPs that
That's
did
not what I called in for.
Well, that's the question I was asking for. Okay, thanks a lot. Okay, so I'm asking the question. So don't call in if you've got something else to talk about, because this is what I'm talking about at this segment of the show. I'm talking about why did Calamity May call the general election. Later on, we're going to be talking about the Glenfield Tower fire, and then later on in the show, we're going to be talking about, this young man and other community issues. Edson, that was, should I say, attacked and resulted in his death. It's alleged that he was murdered by the police. I mean, you tell me. I'm going to tell you what happened to him. And so that's what we're talking about. So, as I mentioned to you before, Corbyn wasn't looking too good, wasn't he? He wasn't looking too good. I'm going to continue this till about 3 o'clock with this subject matter. Okay, so we've got a few more minutes. Corbyn wasn't looking too good, and we know that his own side was also fighting against him, and they were expecting him to lose. And we know what a turnaround now, isn't it? We've got all those people that were fighting against him. They're actually congratulating him now, and some of them want to actually join his government, don't they? Caller, genesisradio.co.uk. Hello? Okay. We got someone playing stalking games on the telephone. Okay. Before I answer that, the question, why was the general election called? Hello, genesisradio.co.uk.
Yeah, I just heard your question about what you put out to have answered by the public. Yep.
Yeah.
And it was, why do you think, correct me if I'm wrong, why do you think she called the election? Is that right?
That's right.
Because she knew she'd win, and she won.
She didn't. So you think? So she had a majority, and now she's got a minority government. So do you call that winning? She's U-turned. She's U-turned on most of her manifesto pledges. In fact, she's actually had to, leave some. She's actually, got rid of some of the manifesto pledges. And when you look at the Queen's speech, that was, really downscaled in terms of, how it usually happens. There's nothing on the manifesto at all, and she's done so many U-turns, and she has actually got a minority government. So do you call that winning?
She won.
You call that winning then? You call that winning?
Won.
She has to form a coalition with DUP because she hasn't got a majority government. You don't need to shout. Okay, I've actually that's that. If you're going to call, but do not shout at me, or I will just switch you off. Okay, so it's Angela Nubia again on the People's Talk Show. If you're going to speak to me with respect, yeah, or I'm going to just shut you down. The People's Talk Show. Hello.
You asked the question.
Yeah. Are you going to talk with respect? Are you going to talk with respect? Are you going to lower your voice and not shout at me?
You were speaking over me.
Sorry?
You asked the question, I answered.
Are you going to talk with?
I want the conversation.
Okay. Let me finish talking then. This is the rules of my show. Yeah. You wait for me to finish speaking, and then when I finish speaking, then you speak, and you speak in a respectful way.
Great.
If you do not do that, I will shut you down. Do you get that?
My time to speak. Yes.
Right. So do you want to continue your answering your question? So I said to you, okay, she's got a minority government. 17, I think it was. And then she's got to form a coalition with DUP in order to have a majority-led government, because she's got a minority-led government. She's U-turned on all of her manifesto pledges, yeah? And you're telling me that she's won.
Now, let me correct you on much of what you said. When you call an election, you call because you're in a strong point, you want to win. She won. Minority, whatever, she won.
And she's strong and stable, isn't she?
Me, you just said rules.
So she's won and she's strong and stable, yeah?
You just interrupted your own rules.
Sorry? Did you hear that? Okay. That call is so rude, so if he rings again, I'm not even going to answer the phone. You don't call me thick, okay? Watch yourself. Okay, so this idiot man that just called, he reckons that Calamity May she has won, irrespective of whether she's got a minority government, and that she's actually got a strong and stable government. I mean, what type of foolishness is that? She can't form a majority government without the help of DUP. I mean, come on, wake up and smell the coffee. She's messed up, basically. She's not offering no strong and stable government. They've called her, so many, if you read, I mean, I was sort of, in hysterics when I read one of the articles in her own right wing paper. They called her Calamity May. Strong and stable. This is ridiculous. She's U-turned on many of her manifesto pledges. And in fact, it was quite empty, wasn't it? It was quite empty. There was nothing in there. People were reading up and they couldn't find anything in there. People's Talk Show, genesisradio.co.uk. Okay,
we'll try again, and I'll keep my voice low.
Yeah, and listen, did you call me thick?
No, I didn't.
Oh, I hope so. I hope you didn't, because I'm not thick. I'm very intelligent. All right, so okay, you're gonna let me tell you about the rules again. Yeah, listen up. It's my show. Yeah, I'm on the People's Talk Show. Yeah, let me tell you about the rules. Yeah.
Yes.
So the rules are: when I finish talking, you talk. Yeah, and also lower your voice. Yeah, don't shout at me. Yeah. Do not shout at me. Talk to me with respect, yeah? And I will do the same to you. Okay. And so, listen, you're interrupted. I ain't finished talking yet, and you're interrupting already. Okay, so let me start again. When I do the show, yeah, I talk. When I finish having my conversation, out of respect, you listen, and then you let me finish my conversation, and then I, in turn, do the same thing about you. This is what you call communication, yeah? Open and fluid communication with respect. And also, as I mentioned to you before, do not shout at me or call any names, yeah? Because if you do, Yeah, me I got to shut you down. Simple things. So yeah, as I mentioned to you before, you're saying to me then, or you're saying to the people then, because she's won, whether she's won with a minority or not, you're saying she's won with sailing, she's won, yeah, and so she's offering a stable and strong government.
It's my time now because I will talk. I don't want to overspeak you. I just want to know that that's the full stop that you're making, so I can.
I've finished talking, haven't I? So over to you.
Okay. 101, she won the election. Number 2, she does not have to have a majority. Number 3, she does not have to make a deal with the DUP.
So why is she doing it then?
Who says she's doing it?
Okay. So she's not doing a deal. So these meetings that she's been conducting with the DUP, then what is she doing then? She's just having tea with them then, eh?
I don't know. She don't need it.
So why is she meeting up with them? Then?
She can run.
Can you answer the question? I've just asked you a question. Why is she meeting up with them? If you listen, do you see your problem? Your problem is, right, you shout too much and you do not listen. Okay, bye to you. The caller, man, learn to listen to conversation or I'm going to shut you down. Simple things, yeah? If you want to listen to what I've got to say, you've got to be able to shut your mouth, listen clearly, and then you can answer, and it's simple. Okay, so back to the question again. And I'm going over this subject. I don't really want to run into it till 4 o'clock. I asked, right, why did she call the election? I'm just going to be respectful. This man, yeah, he's saying that she, irrespective of whether she had a minority or majority government or not, she won. And he's saying that her meetings with the DUP is nothing to do with forming a coalition government. She's just meeting with him to discuss tea or her next hairdo or her next, calamity that she's going to do. I mean, is this for real? Okay. So as we know, okay. Genesis Radio, People's Talk Show.
Greetings, sis.
Greetings.
Yeah, I don't know what's wrong with Reese today, but anyhow. You were asking a question about why Calamity May called the election when she did, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Right, I think she called that election because she and her advisors felt very confident at the time that she would be able to gain an even larger majority in the House of Commons.
Yeah.
And therefore, that would give her carte blanche powers to push through any legislation she wanted to.
Through the back door.
And to handle the Brexit situation any way she wanted to.
True. Yeah. Thank you for that.
Yeah, that's all right. But it obviously didn't go according to plan, did it? And now she's ended up with a weaker government.
That's right.
And she's now having to climb into bed with a party that she probably wouldn't have even fathomed climbing into bed with.
That's right.
Ago.
Thank you very much, caller. Yeah. What's your name?
Fiona.
Thanks, Fiona. That's an intellectual response. Yeah, that's the reason why she called it, isn't it? Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that contribution.
All right.
Thank you. Cool.
All right, bye.
Thank you, Fiona, for that response. So, did you hear that? So, Fiona reckons that she called the election because obviously at the time Corby was in a weak moment and she thought that she was going to win. And, it backfired, didn't it? And so she's got a minority government. And the other caller that thinks that she doesn't have to go to bed. I mean, she doesn't really want to go to bed. As Fiona says, she wouldn't even bother deal with these people, but she has to reluctantly go to bed with the DUP in order to have a majority government. Because if, she's doing this, as Fiona so rightly said, because she wants to put legislation, through the back door as she's been doing. So many laws have been put through the back door, without, we even blinking our eye. Because, as they do, they put lots of stuff to derail and cause, distraction. Genesis Radio, People's Talk Show. How can I help? Hello, you're live and direct on Genesis People's Talk Show.
Hi, good evening. Thank you very much.
Good evening.
I think Teresa May actually did win the election.
Yeah.
Now, let me qualify that statement. Technically speaking, she did win.
Technically, yeah.
Practically, she hasn't got enough MPs on her side to form a proper government. She hasn't got that margin of MPs that would allow her to pass certain bits of legislation through.
Yeah.
So consequently, she has had very quickly to make alliances. Now, one of the people she chose, for whatever reason, is the DUP. But the problem lies in this, because she is expected to be the chair. Well, this government is expected to broker a deal between Sinn Féin and the DUP.
Yeah.
But this government cannot effectively be impartial if the DUP is practically part of the government. So that is a problem she's having at the moment. The other problem is that she underestimated the feel of the British people.
That's right.
How they were feeling, what we're going through, what they wanted. She also underestimated Jeremy Corbyn's contact with the general public, because this man has not changed his policy for over 30 years. He's been the same. He's been saying the same things. He's been going on the same route.
He's been consistent, hasn't
he? To big up Diane Abbott, the MP who's had a lot of negative response in the press. She was very, very tired. I met Diane Abbott at the Greenwich University during the women's book show, and she was really tired at the time. And you can see, how the toll was taken. It's how the election
was taking its toll on her. Well, you know what? I mean, what's your name, caller? Sorry.
Paul Phoenix. I live in Lewisham.
Okay, you live in Lewisham. I mean, Paul, I was hearing some disgruntlement from the community, and they were actually saying serve her right, Diana Abbott, at the time, particularly because, let me just finish, particularly because they felt that she let down the black community and that her voice was not being heard. I know that she's been more vocal now, but, lots of people have said, what is she really doing for the black community? And so when she faced that onslaught, I thought it perhaps brought it home to her, particularly, those monkey chants, etc., and the media onslaught. And so I think she probably remembered, remembered what time of day it is.
No. I totally disagree. For 30 years, this woman has been fighting the fight for the black community.
Really?
I think, I think people should research what she's actually done, before they start to criticize her. I did respond to a couple of Facebook posts, and I said, look, before you abuse, criticize, and accuse, let's walk a mile on this woman's shoes. For 30 years, she's been fighting the fight for black people. I mean, I don't
know about that, because I remember there was an incident. There's loads of incidences that have actually impacted on black people, and what I've known of Diana Abbott is, she's quick to speak up for people outside her own black community in terms of. I remember there was this fiasco with the anti-Semitism fiasco. Do you remember when there was some issue within the Labour Party, and she's quick to come to the defence of people outside her own community. But when incidences occur within her own community, and when because I know loads of community people have written to her personally and have advocated their cases, she's silent, and so she's now become more vocal now, because obviously she's won more of a clear majority. And I think in her defence there was an element of racism in terms of the media onslaught, but when we look at it objectively, there are still some disgruntled members in the black community who actually believe that she's actually let them down.
No, I possibly a lot of people may feel, yes, she has let us down, but you can't be everything to every single person. I remember when Diane Abbott started up this London and the Black Child, right? She did that. I think she was the only MP at the time who stood up to the forefront, and because she did that, she lost a lot of possible appointments within the political structure. I know she paid a price for doing that. It ended up when she finished, the dust was all down. A lot of people put out their projects, and they just wasted the time and they wasted the money. This woman has made an enormous effort. Yes, she has made some mistakes. I don't deny that. But then again, who hasn't? At the same token, I think the amount of effort she has put in to champion the cause of the black community. And, let's...
Paul, with due respect, that's your opinion. I mean, I talk to lots of people in the community, and that's not their opinion. They believe that she's let them down. They believe that she was sitting on the fence, and some of them have gone to length to even say. I mean, I'm going to say it, straight on the show. You know how we keep it raw. That the only reason why she had her previous position. I mean, is she still shadow Home Secretary? Because I know that she had to step down, didn't she?
No, I think she's been
demoted, isn't she?
Removed from the post. I'm not sure whether it's temporary or permanent, but she has been
demoted.
Removed from the post.
Yeah, but then isn't that demotion as a result of her interviews? Because apparently it was alleged. I mean, I don't know if you saw some of the interviews on Sky and across the media where she couldn't remember some of the figures and etc. I mean, some members of the black community was actually saying that she really messed up. She was really tripping there. And then so what they've been even alleging is that she had a previous position due to the fact that, I know it was out there in the media, that she actually had a relationship with Jeremy Covey. I mean, he said he broke her virginity, didn't he?
No. I mean, you'd be surprised how many MPs, black and white, they have had relationships with each other. See, I'm telling you, seriously, you'll be surprised.
No, I would not be surprised, because what I do know is that some people do that in order to get success, don't they? I'm sure you've heard of it. You can sleep your way to the top.
I mean, some people do it because it just happens. You work in an environment, there are MPs, and they have...
No, things don't just happen, Paul. Things don't just happen. Believe me, things just don't happen. If you want something to happen... No, they don't. I mean, you've heard about, company secretaries, directors, and they go off with the secretary, etc. Or, even in the music industry, regular artists that have done considerably well, it's because they've slept up there with the producers, isn't it? And then you've got some reggae artists that's struggling at the moment because they refuse to sleep around. So, come on, let's wake up and talk this thing for real.
What I'm saying is that is not always the case. So we should.
It is always the case. I think where you sort of where are you sort of flexing, Paul? You need to come and flex where I'm flexing, because the people them on the ground, that's what they're telling me.
Lady, you really and truly do not know how I flex or where I flex. I'm telling you that.
Well, as I said to you,
when it comes to our people being, I would say, ungrateful, I work with a lot of parents. I stand between them and the local authorities in a lot of cases, between them and the schools. Not all of the black parents would pick up the phone and say, "Well, thank you, Paul, for doing this or doing that."
I go through the same. I go through the same thing. I mean, doing this show, I'm sacrificing my Sunday, to do this show, and
Exactly.
It's very rarely that I get a thank you. Very rarely I get a thank you. But, I'm doing it because of my people. I'm doing it because of my community. I'm doing it because my community needs to wake up. I'm doing it because my community needs to be educated. I'm doing it because certain people in government, corporate, wherever, they need to be exposed for, the things that they're doing, because it's just not right. And so I'm doing this for my people, and our voices need to be heard, because as we know, they've tried to shut down so many voices, innit? And so what I'm saying is, I've worked in corporate society for years, and I know that thing is quite apparent, where people do sleep their way up to to get benefits. And so moving on from that, anyway, Paul. So so obviously it backfired with Calamity May, didn't it?
Oh yes, and I'm glad it did. Quite
big time, innit? Big time.
She lied to the people in this country. She lied to everyone, and she made promises she had no intention of keeping. Fast forward to the tragic incident at Greenfield, she showed little emotion.
We're going to talk about that in half an hour's time. She was quite robotic, wasn't she? We're going to talk about that half past of the hour. We're going to talk about Glenfield. And all that, but it's got links with the election. You're going to be, you're going to see how, it links to the election. I know you're an intelligent man, Paul. I know, and you're going to see the link. Paul, I want you to keep it locked, because, towards the end of the show, between 5 and 6, we're going to talk about some community issues. And I know that you had some sort of, did you go to that education thing in Lewisham with Daniel Pinnock?
No, I didn't. But I was unable to make it because I was dealing with another parent at the time. But I think, in all fairness, I think Daniel is doing a very, very good job.
Great job, isn't it?
And I think, we should all get behind the man and try to ask this authority what they're doing about educating the youngsters. Because years and years ago, there was a project in this borough called Revealing Success. At that time, this borough was more or less at the forefront of GCSE results. It was also at the forefront of what was known then as the Literacy and Numeracy Project. In fact, this borough was one of the pilot boroughs chosen to lead.
Paul, it's a Labour government, isn't it, Lewisham?
Well, that's right.
So, the Labour government's failing our children and we're voting Labour in, yeah? Is that right?
Sorry?
The Labour government in Lewisham, and I mean, and I know there's loads of boroughs, are failing our children, and we as black people, we vote Labour, yeah? Religiously.
Well, you see, the thing is, politics is a very weird business.
So, Paul, I mean, what I don't understand is, why would you vote for a party that's failing your people? Why would you do that? Is it because you're going to say, my mom votes Labour, we are Labour people, we vote Labour from, Jamaica or wherever, and so we vote Labour. So if Labour is failing your community, if Labour are gentrificating your neighbourhood, because in Lambeth, as you know, they're gentrificating the area, and that's run by Labour in Brixton, for example, yeah? And so why do the people consistently vote Labour when Labour are impacting on the community, their children, their families, on their livelihood? It don't make sense to me. It's like, that's stupidity, isn't it?
Very simple answer is, what other choice have they got?
Oh God! So what? So you're going to drop? So because that's the only devil there, you're going to vote for the devil, yeah?
Well, you got no choice. I mean, what choice have they got? It's better, as the saying goes, it's better vote for the devil that you know. Really?
So if you know the devil is failing your people, the devil is failing your people, the devil is causing, is impacting your community, and you're saying to me that because we got no choice, we still got to vote for the devil. So guess what? We can't complain then, innit? We can't complain.
No. When I use the word devil, I'm not using it in the purest sense that you would relate the word devil in a religious sense. I'm using it in a sense.
The oppressor. Okay, the oppressor. The oppressor then. The oppressor.
Right, so any Christians out there who I know...
Paul, the oppressor. Paul, the oppressor. Yeah, the Labour government and the Conservative government, all, they signify to me the oppressors, because, it's only the oppressor that will oppress your people, innit? And, not wanting your people to achieve or prosper. And so why do we as black communities, and you're saying that as a black member of the community, because we've got no choice, we still got to vote for the oppressor? Yeah?
Well, it's called democracy. The only
democracy. That's not democracy. That's not democracy, Paul.
No. Please listen to me. The only thing that we can do as a people, and I always say this, instead of arguing about what's bad, why don't we form our own party? Why don't we get together, which we should do, which we could do, get together, stop the little petty bickerings and little jealousy.
We had someone, but we had someone that
mentality.
But Paul, we did get together, didn't it? We had someone that was elected. Well, what's his name? You know him well. I think you know him well. Is it Lee Jasper?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, he was the elected person. Look what he ended up doing. He was under somebody's legs, wasn't he?
Well, to the best of my knowledge, Lee Jasper was not elected into office.
He was
not elected.
He was the voice. He was representing some. I mean, he gave lots of contracts to people in the community on a grassroots level. Yeah, so he was the voice of the community. And look what happened to him.
No, he was a voice, but not the voice, i.e. the meaning.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is there's so many people like the likes of Lee Jasper that, as being a voice then of our people that could have been elected, because he went up for election. He wanted to take the Croydon seat, didn't it? And he lost miserably. But what I'm saying, these leaders, they come into power, or the voice or the so-called community leaders, they come into power and they mess up big time, innit? Because as I said, he was found under someone's leg, innit? You know I'm doing it here. We keep it raw on Genesis Radio. I'm sure you know about that, don't you?
I've met Lee Jasper a couple of times. And let me say that no one's perfect, you know. And Corbyn rightly says, if you want a perfect MP, you become a perfect voter. We're not perfect voters, so we shouldn't demand perfection when we ourselves are not perfect. I'm
not talking about perfection. You know what, Paul? I don't want perfection, you know. All I want, say, you know, if the brother or the sister mess up, right, raise up your hand and said, yeah, you know, I really messed up here. I'm really sorry. But don't pretend. Half of these people, they're in denial. You know, some of them even denied the incident even took place. That's the thing. You get what I'm trying to say? So keep it real, you know. So if you messed up, I mean, you know, I'm not perfect. You know, if I mess up, I raise my hand and say, you know what, I really screwed up here. You know, I'm really sorry because I'm human after all. But if you're elected by the people to serve the people, then serve the people. Don't serve cliques. Because as in, you know, those people that are elected community leaders, like the likes of Lee Jasper, they serve their cliquism. I think, didn't you mention something that you called on the show? I like the word that you used. What was it called again? The cliquism thing?
What's that, sorry?
Yeah, do you remember those people that just serve their cliques? There was something, it was a lovely word that you used a couple of months ago on the show. People that just serve their cliques. Well, you probably forgot.
Oh, yes, I use the term the dog whistle project.
There you go. The dog whistle project. Yeah, so that's all they do, isn't it?
You remember that.
I remember that. Yeah, I remember that. That is so profound because that's what they're doing, it. The dog whistle project. So they just whistle blow their favourite comrades, yeah, and they get a look into the projects and stuff. Lee Jasper was doing a lot of that. And so the so-called community leaders, they have dog whistle projects.
Right, but the thing is, dog whistle projects refers to the statement of a dog whistle. Only dogs can hear it. So these dog whistle projects are set up in a way that only their mates, only the people
their mates. That's what I'm trying to say. And so, as you said, so why don't we people of the black community elect our own? So we elect our own, or we nominate people, or people nominate themselves pretending that they're community leaders, and then they run this dog whistle project where only their mates listen. And so how are we going to win? So in terms of Lewisham Council letting us down and Lambeth Council letting us down, and so many councils that are run by Labour and the Conservative government, why do we black people still vote them in?
Because
we got no choice. It's democracy, yeah?
Seem to get together. We just can't seem to come
What's wrong with us? What's wrong with us? What's wrong with us? We're sick. The community's sick. We're sick.
That's a question that's been asked since...
Jesus, I mean, this has been going on for centuries, isn't it?
Yeah, for a long, long time, the same thing been happening. And I don't think it's accidental. It starts from the schools.
Design.
It starts from the schools. Education is one of the elements that is responsible for a load of disadvantageous elements in our community.
Yeah, I agree. Paul. I agree, Paul. But guess what? I'm surprised. You've got lots of educated people around here, and yet I don't understand. It's like, say, if you know someone's failing, you're like, okay, so you've got a partner and your partner keeps consistently abusing you, consistently, treating you wickedly and badly and is not making no changes, and you're going to still stick with that man there. Something wrong with you then? Or you're going to stay with that woman then? Something's wrong with you then, isn't it?
Well, that's a problem, and I think it's called some sort of syndrome whereby people would allow themselves to be abused by a particular person if they get from that person something that they require. So there must be something that they're getting from that person, some sweetness or whatever that they're getting from that person that would allow them
to continue in that relationship.
To continue the relationship.
So what sweetness? Paul, what sweetness are we getting from? What sweetness are we getting from the Labour Party, who impacts on our children on the education front in terms of, we look at Lewisham, and who gentrify so many areas that we live in that we can't even afford to live there anymore, that give people outside our community so many benefits that we don't have, yeah, and so why do we so we continue in that relationship? Because what sweetness are we getting from the Labour Party then?
It's called learned pattern behaviour.
That's the sweetness then. That's the sweetness then, is it? That's not sweet. Learned pattern behaviour is not sweet.
Sorry?
Learned pattern behaviour is not sweet. you're saying that people stay in a relationship that's toxic and abusive because they're getting something sweet from the relationship. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yes.
And so then, in terms of the Labour Party, then, or in terms of political parties, why do we as a black community continue to vote for a party that is not serving our people? So what sweetness are we getting from these parties then? Some of us are some of us going to bed with them then?
Learned behavior. You see, not every single person in the Labour Party does the bad thing for people. I mean, the Labour Party is comprised of a lot of people.
Okay, Paul, you got to retract there. I mean, if a borough is failing your children, if a borough is failing your children's education, where particularly in Lewisham, you know, many young black males are put into, you know, PRUs. Yeah, I've heard of some horrid situations in terms of the parents haven't got access to their children. You know, they can't get to the gate in order to find out, you know, what sort of things they're learning. They've been restrictive. The young men have been treated like animals in the borough. And so why would our black community still elect a Labour government who's failing their children? Does it make any sense? And you're saying to me it's because of learnt behaviour?
Well, I just said it is what other choices they've got. And I would say again, not every single person in the Labour Party is the same. I know a lot of people in this borough who are members of the Labour Party who are pretty good people. They work
well, you know what? I've heard a lot as well.
A lot of people who are members of the Labour Party, black people, who really and truly are useless. They are no use. They are no good.
Well, you know what? I've heard I've heard in the Labour Party, in the current Labour Party, I think it's in Lambeth Borough, where, you know, the Labour Party that's been voted by the black people in Lambeth alone, they've made so many middle management or people that could be potential managers redundant from their roles in Lambeth, yeah. So Lambeth Council, for instance, is whitewashed. Yeah, there's only a minimum representative of black there, and you know the little minimum of representative of black there is they've actually been bullied. You know, they've been abused. You know, just to have their little voice there, and so that Lambeth has been voted by black people. Yeah, it's a Labour Party, it's a Labour government. You have businesses that have been shut down, that have been moved up to Acre Lane, where white businesses have been offered lots of business incentives, you know, like sort of 6 months free rent, etc. And yet our people have been marginalised, and abused by a Labour government. And so we still vote for them because we've got no choice, and it's a learnt behaviour. Yeah?
Well, no. It's just, look, we don't look just at the party. Look at the individuals that run these councils.
They're Labour Party members. And guess what? And not only are the Labour Party members, you know what? It's our people, our community people, guess what? That are ushering the votes. So our people are actually ushering the vote. So they are actually encouraging us to vote for these people that don't really care about us. Doesn't make no sense to me.
Not all of them do not care about it. What I'm trying to say is that we have to look at the makeup of the various councils. Because they are Labour, does it mean that they're really good guys? I can call a few names, but I wouldn't, but I can call a few names of Labour councillors who really and truly are absolutely useless. In fact, they're worse than the Conservatives. But the mere fact they carry the label, they are Labour, and because they carry that banner, they're under that banner, people would vote for them because they do not want to vote for the Conservatives because they know really and truly, as bad as these guys might be, as far as they're concerned, the Conservatives are a lot worse. But we have to target the individual councillors and say, look, you are supposed to represent a certain policy, a certain political ethic. Why aren't you doing it? We have to challenge the councillors and the senior members within the council.
Okay, so who votes for these councillors? But Paul, who votes for these councillors? Isn't it us? We vote for them. We vote them in, isn't it?
But we vote for them in a lot of cases because they come under a banner that says Labour.
Wow. So we're delusionised. So we're delusionised with that banner Labour, aren't we? We're delusionised with that banner.
To a certain extent, I get that. But at the same token, we have to make sure that these people do exactly what it says on the box. And that is our problem. We do not challenge enough
Okay.
You know,
okay.
At the moment, right now, on Monday, I am going to a school to represent a parent whose son has literally been treated, to use the term badly would be an understatement. He's been treated abominably by the school, and the school authorities are literally running around.
It's run by Labour. Okay, so Paul, I want to ask you a question. You know what? I don't quite understand. You know, I mean, maybe you can give me some answers for this as we're talking about community and schooling. Why did they? You know, what's happening with Lewisham Way, that community centre, and particularly in Lightwoods? I'm quite aware that there are community groups that are struggling to find buildings, you know, to do their various initiatives. And so I was driving along Lewisham Way and I saw it all boarded up. I mean, so why is Lewisham Way closed down? And that was a community centre. That was a robust community centre. What happened there? Do you know? Paul? Okay, I've lost Paul. Okay, so maybe I'll ask somebody out there. Lewisham Way, you know, there's a community centre that's been boarded up. I know lots of people doing community initiatives in Lewisham alone, and you know they're fighting to find office space or a space to do their business or to do their project. I mean, why don't they open up? Why don't Lewisham Council give the Lewisham Way community centre then for these people, because it's boarded up? Doesn't make any sense to me. Why would you support a government that's failing your people? Makes no sense. I'm going to see you in a bit. Angela Nubia on the People's Talk Show. After this, we're going to talk about Glenfield Tower, the Glenfield Tower fire. Give you some updates on that. I mean, it's absolutely madness, isn't it? Madness, me I tell you. See you in a minute. Okay, someone's just called. Let me just take it quick. Hello?
Hello. Just a quick correction for any one of you. Now, referring to the ghettoologist, is another presenter on this station.
Yeah.
Came back. Labour, remember Labour was campaigning for the people, all these people that had these benefits and all this stuff. Labour, it was done by Labour. Let me tell you what happened from his point of view, and I start to agree because I put the pieces together. I've been thinking about this for a long time. What they did was they put their agents into Labour because Labour was the only people that was helping the thing. What they did was after Maggie, they put the person called Maggie Thatcher in, and I don't know how she came in, but they put them in. Then they put Tony Blair in, so they mashed up the Labour Party totally. Now, also, we did in our group, Speaking Up group, we drew rights. We called for the Labour people from Labour, Lib Dems, Green Party, and UKIP. The Conservatives took the biscuit, as I say. They didn't come. No, the Labour will pay. They didn't come. So out of all of them, we chose the Green Party. But even though the Green Party, they make their promises, and all these people, even Lee Jasper, even Thing, when they come up to the top, they suddenly switch. And I also asked another presenter named Rashid Nix, who's a brother, like a brother to me, and I asked him, how are you not going to know if you're going to switch? Because remember, status, 2 words, status quo. Status means status quo. They always pull strings. That's how they do it. So after, they sent in a person named Maggie Thatcher, which mashed up the Labour Party, and to even mash it up even more, they sent a person called Tony Blair. And they mashed it up even more by sending men in. So Labour Party is absolutely gone. If it was like the Labour Party before, the schooling system was better. Nobody would get expelled. But guess what? They're taking away special schools. So if there's a child with autism, years later, that child is going to have to won't go to school. You know, years later, I'm telling you this from now. I might be dead, but mark my words, this country is going to get like Algeria. It's going to get like China. I'll tell you this from now. And by the way, they brought in the link tax, Angela, which is even worse news, because the link tax is not going to make you talk. And when you share a link, find out about the link tax. Because I told Sage for our show, and it's very important. It's very dangerous.
Okay, thanks for that, Bertrand.
It's very dangerous. I need to give you that information on text.
Yeah, send it to me.
But if you want to talk about it, please do, because that's going to make you take away your speeches.
Yeah.
So it's coming in.
It's coming in soon. Okay, cheers, Bertrand. Keep it locked. I'm going to see you in a bit. We're going to be talking about... Thanks, Bertrand. We're going to be talking about the Grenfell... giving an update about the Grenfell fire in terms of, you know, the deaths that we saw on, all those residents that lost their lives, that were murdered by corporates of this world. We're going to be talking about that soon. So I'm going to see you in a bit. And so the number to call to join in the conversations about the update on Grenfell fire, 07931 276 232. It's Angela Nubia on the People's Talk Show on genesisradio.co.uk. See you in a bit. Okay. Right, I'm going to take that back again. I'm going to play this. It's a really nice... hang on, I'm going to bring that back again. One moment. It's a nice... Good God, can I do this? One moment. It's Angela Nubia on the People's Talk Show. I'm going to play you this nice tune from... Glenfield Tower, the Glenfield Tower people down. I can't take that call yet, so just hold tight. Okay, because we're going to be talking about the Glenfield Tower in a bit. Hang on. Hello, genesisradio.co.uk.
Hello. Hi, it's Paul here. I'm sorry we got cut off because my battery went dead.
Okay, Paul, do you want to call back in about 5 minutes? We're going to play a tune for the Glenfield Tower residents that's lost their lives, yeah?
No problem. We'll do a pleasure. Thank you.
Okay, cheers.
Thank you.
Angela Nubia on genesisradio.co.uk. That's a lovely tune that was done in aid of, in support of the Community Foundation in light of the deaths that we saw on Glenfield Tower that occurred early Tuesday morning, where we saw lots of tenants and residents being burnt to death, and the fire there at Grenfell Tower. It's just awful, isn't it? It's awful. I mean, the first time I heard that tune, I shed a tear or two, because it's just absolutely moving. It's just, I can't believe it. I can't believe how in this 21st century Britain that this sort of thing can actually happen, where these corporate people, not surprising because we know these corporate people, they do all sorts, but to allow people to burn to death, children. I mean, I'm a mother of 4. Jesus, man, to see these people burnt alive. I was listening to some accounts of some people, and it's harrowing. It's harrowing, And I'm going to let the people... This is the People's Talk Show. And I'm going to let you hear from the people then, because this is what this show is all about. It's not about me. It's not about me. Yeah, it's not about me. It's about the people then. And I'm going to let you hear from some of the people then on the ground here, what they got to say, before we start talking about and giving you some updates. Okay? So let's listen to this brother here.
If these kids were blonde hair and blue eyes, this wouldn't have happened. But they are people of colour, so they don't give a F-U-C-K. Those people need to go to jail.
Babies.
They should be arrested, just like every other citizen. If we go out there and run somebody over and it's a mistake, we get arrested for suspicion of manslaughter. Don't let them sit in their mansions, hugging their kids, putting them to bed nicely, planning their holidays, while people's children are still charred bodies inside a building that people can't get into. This is a crime against humanity, what they've done. Why hasn't Teresa May asked the whole of England to give a minute's silence to the dead and to the ones we ain't found? Why? You have no empathy for these people. people. Some of them don't even know where their children are. But yet still, there's nothing from our Prime Minister. Our illustrious leader. She makes Cruella look human. Why is it that we, people of colour, do not get the same treatment as the English people who live in this country? Why? Are we hated so much? It's just crazy. Everybody, I'm in work. 11 o'clock last week, we all had to stand quiet to give a minute of silence. The whole office. I'm a grown man, I cried nearly every day. I cried for these people. Nothing has affected me like this. In the last 20 years, they've already desensitized us from the war. And when I watched this, this made me cry. I cried in front of my children, and my children are grown. They're all teenagers. I went on my knees and cried because I could not imagine what it would be like to see your child behind a glass screaming for help, and they've been told not to leave the building. Are you kidding me? These people need to go to jail, and it needs to happen now. The police need to kick off their doors. They need to send the squad, kick off the owners of Ryden, of the Housing Association and the council leader, go to their houses, kick off their front doors, drag them out and arrest them for suspicion of manslaughter. But at least you can get their documents, because right now they are shredding like fuck. They are shredding everything. That's what they're doing. Between the council, Raiden and the Housing Association, they are shredding documents.
Okay, this is Angela Nubia on the People's Talk Show. You know, we're going to keep it real. Sorry, caller, I couldn't take that call at the moment because I just wanted you to hear what the brother had to say. It's very important to hear from members of the community in terms of, you know, providing you with an update on Grenfell. And so, okay, what's really interesting in terms of Grenfell, and I'm sure many of you are quite, sort of, you know, intelligent enough to understand, you know, the guanins in there, as it were, is that it was interesting that the election of in Kensington particularly, where we saw a Labour government in power. I think for the first time for 40 years, a Labour MP, in power for the first time in 40 years. Angela Newbia on the People's Talk Show. Hello?
Hello?
Hello, Angela Newbia on the People's Talk Show. What do you want to say?
Hi, this is Paul here again, Paul Phoenix.
Hi, Paul.
I just heard the talk, and I remember listening to the brother down in the Latimer Road area when he was doing the speech, and we were there in front of the Notting Hill Methodist Church. I believe that's where a lot of the protests was. A lot of the speeches were there. A lot of cameras were there from BBC, ITV, Sky News. Everybody was there. I'm even here again, you know, I still see you as twins. I feel moved, and I agree with what he's saying. You know, it must have been hard for those people on the ground looking up and seeing their friends, their loved ones, begging to be rescued, and knowing full well that there was nothing they could do except just watch. You know, that was a heart-wrenching process. I've spoken to a lot of people down in that area. But one of the things that we have to ask ourselves, one of the questions we have to ask ourselves, why were those panels allowed to be used? Because they are effectively banned in America. They are banned in Europe. They're also banned here.
Yeah, it's actually banned in this country as well, isn't it?
That's right.
Yeah.
So who gave permission for the company, for the contractors to use those panels? See, any person that works in that office that deals with building has to be familiar with the regulations.
Absolutely.
With the standards.
Apparently, it wasn't signed off.
Allowed and what is not allowed.
Yeah, apparently it wasn't signed off, Paul. It wasn't signed off, apparently. It's been alleged that it wasn't even signed off. The person that's responsible for
it
this.
It had to be. There is a kind of a catch thing, administrative catch issue, whereby if something is not signed off, then it cannot go ahead.
Well, apparently, in this case, Paul, it wasn't signed off. It's been, it's been alleged out there. I mean, I've read lots of things, and apparently, it wasn't signed off, and so there's a discrepancy
it
there.
went ahead illegally.
And the
person who allowed it to go ahead, who was supposed to do all the checks, because every so often they are supposed to do checks on building sites. That is the planning department. They're supposed to check that the work conforms to certain standards, that the work is being done properly, and it's being done according to certain standards. Those checks would have to have been carried out by person or persons.
Apparently, those checks weren't carried out. Apparently, as I understand it, the residents were complaining about, the unsafety or of the building for years. And it runs deep, because also I understand that the building was up for they wanted that the council wanted that building. I'm not sure if you understand that, and that a letter was sent out to the residents in terms of them having the building, and they refused, and so they wanted to turn that building into some sort of business outlet for the rich, and the residents
it was up
refused.
For demolition in 2014 also.
Yeah, and so there's lots of sorry.
I've got sort of documents that to the effect that says that the council were discussing the idea of demolishing the building in 2014.
Okay, and so in terms of the building regulations, I understand that no checks were carried out. In fact, no checks were being carried out for a considerably long period of time, and in fact, it was not actually even signed off. And so, yes, as you mentioned, it is actually illegal practice there, illegal practice by the council officials there. I'm happy to learn that Sadiq Jarvi, or is it Jarvi Sabit, has actually told the chief exec of the council to actually leave, because he was quite adamant. He didn't actually want to go, did he? Which is highly shocking.
I personally think he should have stayed and faced the music, or he should have been forced to stay and face the music.
On a salary?
People are going to just resign.
Yeah, not on his big salary, I don't think so. Perhaps forced to face the music without any salary, I would say, yeah, but not with salary, I'm sorry, because I think they've milked the system long enough, haven't they? I'm not sure if you understand, Paul, but do you know that the vote in Kensington had to be recounted about up to 6 times? Are you aware of that?
No, I wouldn't. I knew it had to be recounted. I'm not sure how many times.
Yeah, so apparently it was up to 5 counts, and I think at the time, Paul, it was only 32 votes they were actually contesting, particularly because it was like a narrow win sort of thing. And as we know, that it was a Tory stronghold for about 40 years. I mean, it was since 1974, in fact. Yeah. And it was the last constituency to actually declare its results. And so I recall reading a tweet from Emma Dent, Emma Dent Code, and she told The Guardian, and in a tweet, that the party had heard nothing from the Tory office or the Tory campaign office in terms of her winning, because people were actually congratulating her. And she said that, well, all she was aware, and she said that on a tweet in The Guardian, that all she was aware that it had to be recounted. And apparently, even to the early mornings on the Friday, I think it was recounted again. And the staff were absolutely exhausted. I mean, I'm sort of thinking, why are you recounting 32 seats at that time? I mean, apparently the votes were very close. And it was actually known. They knew the results at 2 a.m. and yet they still requested a recount. And, so if you were aware that Labour won at 2 a.m., why are you still, pressing for a recount? So they counted again on the third time, Paul. and the staff were really sort of exhausted. So they counted again, and still, and so it was reduced, isn't it? This is interesting. It was now reduced to 20 votes. So they won Friday evening. It was announced that Labour had won by 20 votes as opposed to the 32. So my question is, why are they sort of consistently asking for a recount? I mean, if you knew the results at 2 a.m., accept the results. We live in a democracy, aren't we, Paul?
Well, we are supposed to. But the thing is, if you've been in power for 40 odd years and Sunday one evening, you realize that, hang on, the power is gone, meaning you're going to be really, really shocked. I mean, I could understand why they insisted on a recount. They couldn't believe that 2017 they've lost.
Well, I mean, why can't they believe that? Why can't they believe that? I mean, people are dissatisfied and they're disgruntled about their services. I mean, the way the Glenfield tenants were treated, it's just unbelievable. Second-class citizens, and then you have all these multi-million buildings around them. I mean, apparently, Paul, one of the luxury buildings, they should have been, when they were built, they were actually, part of the contract was that they should have been assigned to, for social housing, and that didn't actually happen, did it?
I'm not too sure about that aspect of it. All I know, I've got documents to prove, number one, that the material that was ordered, that was brought in, that was given to the contractors to fit on that building was not appropriate for the use it was designed to do.
I know that, but that's not the only tower. I mean, Camden is now looking into it. That's a Labour government, and so many.
That's right.
So many.
I believe they're over. I think it's six. The figure was 600 high-rise tower blocks with that same type
cladding material
of facing.
Yeah.
So that the people understandably living in those tower blocks are a little bit apprehensive, to put it mildly.
Of course, wouldn't you be apprehensive to live in a tower where the cladding, you've seen, people burnt to death? In the likelihood of a fire, you will be burnt alive. Do you know? So obviously, people would be disgruntled about.
I wouldn't be. I wouldn't be. I'd be scared. X-less. You understand me? I'd be petrified.
Yeah.
And I can only say it's thanks to the courage of a lot of people, that they haven't had a mass exodus from those buildings. But I think, all in all, it shows us the level of greed, avarice, and total bad-mindedness that exists within a governance structure.
I wouldn't call it bad-mindedness, Paul. It's discrimination and racism. Yeah, because as you know, many of the people that were living there, it was a mixed community. Lots of ethnicity.
That's bad-mindedness.
Yeah, that's racism and discrimination, and it's actually illegal practice, isn't it? Sharp illegal practice. And as you said, as that fella,
it shows greed.
Yeah.
It shows greed. I mean, how greedy can these people be? How much do they want? I mean, how much food can they eat?
Good God.
How much resources can they use? And they're literally destroying communities after communities to satisfy their ego,
their own greed, and they're prepared to burn people. They're prepared to burn innocent people alive. Children, babies, mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters. They feel confident to do that to gravitate to their own greed. I mean, what sort of people are we dealing with here?
Well,
it's quite scary, isn't it?
But what I do know, we're not dealing, to use the term, with godly people. We're dealing with a different type.
Wicked people, evil people. That's why I call them. What was quite shocking as well, Paul? I'm not sure if you were aware of this. Is that and as I know that you mentioned it as well. Was that I mean, I want to congratulate personally. The community. I mean, they came together, and particularly the Muslim community who were in the process of doing Ramadan, and they were the one that actually rose the alarm which has not been, I know it's been celebrated now, sort of towards the end of their media, propaganda, as I would call it. But immediately when the press was actually, telling the story, as it were, or telling their story, they didn't actually give the Muslims any sort of recognition. And I think that the Muslim community, they did remarkably well, didn't they?
Well, the press. We look at the press. I mean, the press is a double-edged sword. I mean, a lot of the press are controlled by central government anywhere.
Yeah, we know that.
And they would say what they are told to say. For example, not digressing, but a prime example is the time of the Broadwater Farm riots. I mean, a lot of the young people who were on the Broadwater Farm were also youngsters responsible for helping the elderly. The press never said that. They never even mentioned the fact that the next day, those people, a lot of the youngsters came out to see what was happening to the elderly, how they lived through the evening. We all feel sadness that a police officer lost his life during that period of time. But the mere fact that the press did not mention the fact that a lot of the youth on the estate, and I lived on that estate, a lot of the youths on that estate were there helping the elderly, the most vulnerable people on that estate, making sure that they were all right. And I witnessed them being harassed by the police the next morning.
Wow.
So the press is not always the savior of the people. Like it says, until the lion gets his own printing press, the details of the hunt would always justify the hunter.
Absolutely.
And that's what we live into. We need to have a press that we can call our own, a stations and media that we can look to and say, listen, guys, this happened, that happened. We want you to highlight the issue.
So I take it you're not a voice reader then?
I am. I know the voice very well. I've got a lot of friends in the Voice newspaper, and I read the Voice every week.
Okay, because I know lots of people don't read the Voice anymore. They don't actually find it credible enough in terms of telling the real story.
I think they should. You see, the thing is, I argue with a lot of reporters on the Voice. We have arguments, we have disagreements. Not everything the Voice newspaper prints are right, so that I agree with. But at the same token...
I mean, being a writer and a journalist, a trained journalist myself, I don't tend to read the Voice. I'll leave it as that.
I think you should. I think you should.
No.
If you've got any argument,
I take that as an insult, Paul. An insult that I should read the Voice. Good God, what are you thinking?
Right.
What are you thinking? I find that quite insulting that I should read the Voice.
Why? No. Man, it wasn't meant as an insult. It was meant as a remark, and it was not designed to be.
I'm only kidding you. No, I would not. I've chosen. I've chosen not to read the Voice, and lots of people, that I know. In terms of, I don't find, what they've got to say, of any, bears any reflection to me as a black person living in this country, in terms of telling the story.
It does highlight a lot of issues.
No, it highlights a lot of issues, but again, I think that I don't really want to slay to the Voice on air, but leave it to that. I mean, lots of people like me are of the same mind, thinking that we don't really rate the Voice. We leave it as that. And so let's go back to the Grenfell Tower victims, because it's this is what we're talking about for the next hour, right. up until 4:30. Sorry.
I'll say one thing. I say obviously I've been on quite a while, so give someone else a chance to come on. But I'll say one thing: the community in that area, both black, white, Muslim, Christian, Methodist, Pentecostal, whatever have you. The community in that area came up trumps. In fact, they did the most of the work that was done in that area was done by the local community, and
Absolutely.
They came up trumps. I mean, I've seen guys working together, and it doesn't matter. For forgetting all the religious differences.
Yeah, they put it aside. And isn't it shocking? The government's response was absolutely shocking, particularly Teresa May. I mean, she was nearly pelted, wasn't she, when she turned up? Fancy going to an incident and then talking to the firefighters first and not actually seeing the residents. I mean, what was she thinking?
Well, I don't know, but it seemed to me as if she was quite rightly embarrassed. But also, we might mention the youth in that community. Again, the youth in that community were at the forefront of a lot of things. You know, they were vocal. You know, they were in your face. They came out. They expressed themselves very, very well, and they spoke a lot of truth. And I think a lot of the youth in that community did a lot of the hard work. They did in fact, they did most of the volunteering.
Yeah,
I was there.
I was. Yeah, okay. That's interesting. Yeah. So, would you say that
most of the volunteering they were there in the churches, everywhere there were Muslim young men and women there in the Methodist churches, and they were helping. I mean, it was wow.
And that wasn't highlighted. Really, that wasn't highlighted in the media. That wasn't highlighted in the media until later on, wasn't it? Because I mean, they like to put Muslims in a really sort of toxic light, don't they? Not all Muslims are terrorists.
Sky News was there. I spotted Sky News was there. I know that. I don't know who the others were. Possibly the BBC was there as well, but Sky News was there. So if Sky News did not show the youth in that community, it only goes to show how much they are influenced by the central administration, so to speak, of the media. And I think it's terrible. But however, what happened in the area has been a wake up call for all of us. It has showed us how we can make changes, but it also showed us how corrupt and unanswerable
the government is. The government and these corporate fat cats are.
Agencies can be.
Yeah,
and we have to put that to right.
Yeah, I think it was quite insulting, like many people felt, that the $5 million that was offered by Teresa May, in light of her big blunder, huge blunder in terms of her, her behaviour towards the residents was shocking. But the $5 million, in comparison with the $300 million refurbishment to Buckingham Palace, is quite insulting. People have been arguing. What's your thoughts, Paul?
I think there should be more. Their relationship with Buckingham Palace, how much they're going to spend on Buckingham Palace. I think it's something that unless you know the ins and outs of the arrangement between them and the government, I really wouldn't like to comment on.
But I think in terms
awkward because sort of derogatory.
Totally. It's just absolutely insulting, don't you? And I think, you said you went to the area, and so I also heard, and from the residents as well, is that some of them were actually out of money. Soon after the event, they were out of money. They were offered, some cash, and they didn't get it. Some of them, were sleeping in the park. Some of them even had nowhere to go. In their cars. I mean, what sort of government are we dealing with here? Particularly that we're not a third world country. These sort of things happen in sort of war-torn countries, don't they? People where they would like to portray the people that have got bad governance, and so we've got bad governance here, haven't we? In terms of what happened in Glenfield Tower fire.
But the irony is, had this happened somewhere else, this country would be the first among many to condemn that country if it wasn't here.
Definitely, and probably put them up for war crimes or something, wouldn't they?
Exactly. Well, you mentioned it. I think it's not a war, but then again, it is a war.
It's a war. It's a war on the innocent people, the war on the poor. And so, Paul, this call from Teresa May, I know there's a petition out there by 3degrees.org.uk to sign the petition in terms of, Teresa May's requests for a public inquiry. And they're of the opinion that it's a request to protect the establishment. Why she was so quick to call an inquiry. And as you know how long, how inquiries go, don't they?
Yeah. Well, there's also a call to call an inquest. But there are many people who say, well, inquest or inquiry. But I think there's a possibility you can have both. I think that the community needs to sit down together with responsible leaders, not these group of people who are called ambulance chasers. The one who like to go to some tragedy. They chase the fire brigade just to see a fire. We've got those people in our community who suddenly become experts at this, experts at that, and whatever have you. And all they do, they jump up there, try to get themselves publicity.
Yeah, jump on their back. Okay, there was a DJ, wasn't there, that's been receiving a lot of flack for that. Do you know her?
Who's that, sorry?
There's a DJ that's been receiving a lot of flack in terms of, she's been on Sky, she's been all over the place. I can't remember her name now, because you've talked about how people...
I think it's the same lady that I took some photographs of. I've got her on my webpage as well.
Yeah, so what's the story on that then? Because people seem to be disgruntled about her representing the community, because they're saying that she's not talking for them. Is that?
Well, it's the same. If it's the same person, I think her webpage has been taken down. I'm not sure.
Her webpage has been taken down.
Yeah, I
really?
think that's what's been said. But however, more than one, quite a few of the people have come to voice the opinion that there are at least about 300 people who have died in that fire.
Yeah, because that's what I was going to come to next. Because what I was going to come to next was the fact that, there seems to be a decisive ploy by the government to... and the media working in hand with the government, not to sort of tell us the correct figures of those that died. To date, we have 79. I know that there's reports that there's actually hundreds that have died. And let's have a listen to this. I'm not sure if I can play it while you're still on. I'm going to try. Listen to this. This is from a resident there.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
Can you hear?
Glenfield Tower was the first.
No, I can't hear it.
Okay, do you want to call back? And listen to this and call me back.
Yeah.
Listen to that and call me back.
I stood outside my parents' house just across from that garden and watched 150 at least of my neighbours burn to death. And we don't need some public inquiry that's going to be state managed by the government to tell us what we already know. We know what killed those people. Greed killed those people. We know that the cheap cladding, the cheap, shoddy, flammable cladding that they put on that building was put there to make it look pretty for those in the luxury flats nearby. We know that it was put on there when they could have made it inflammable. We know that they were begging for sprinklers. We know that we were begging for them to put proper fire regulations and information up in the building. Everything was falling on deaf ears for years. We also know it wasn't just greed. Greed killed them and austerity killed them. This community is one of the richest in the country, in the world. We have had almost 100 million pounds worth of cuts in the last 7 years. 7 years of Tory austerity. Meanwhile, whilst we've had our nurseries shut, our homelessness prevention schemes shut, our libraries, our North Kensington library just up the road, which has been sold to the fee-paying, to the private school next door for their own private use. All of this is being lost. Meanwhile, they are pumping millions of pounds into things like the Holland Park Opera to entertain the rich. Yeah, this is the most unequal part of the country. This isn't just about Teresa May. This is about the entire ideology of the Conservative Party, which is about putting profits before people. We've had cuts, we've had sell-offs, we've had privatisation, and when we think about what the Tories have been doing just last year, they are consistently voting against the rights of tenants. Last year, the Labour Party tabled an amendment for it to be a legal requirement for the landlords to make their flats safe, and they voted against it. This isn't just about Teresa May, this is about the whole Conservative Party and their ideology of putting profit before people and cuts. Meanwhile, the rich are getting richer. That is what austerity is about. We need to take this fight to the council, but we need to take it right to the top. The responsibility for this lies with Teresa May. The woman's finished anyway. She's finished anyway. We just need to wave goodbye now. What we need to do is for all of us across the country to get on the streets, and there is a demonstration that's been called nationwide on the 1st of July. Not one day more of this government. Not one day more. Meeting at Portland Place. Everyone be there. We need to be there. Bring a Justice for Glenfield block to march with us on that day.
What time is it?
Portland Place, outside the BBC building, so they can't ignore us.
What time?
1st of July, 12 o'clock. Okay? Outside, it's in Oxford Circus, outside the BBC building.
Okay, so I hope you managed to hear that. And that was a resident, again, talking about her disgruntlement and what she actually saw in terms of, what's happened at Glenfield Tower. And as she said so rightly, it's, greed. They put the rich and the wealthy, they put profits before people's lives. That's what they're about. They're not actually about the people. They're not actually about, looking after the people. They're not about, making sure that there's, equality and justice for all. They're about, profits before people. It's absolutely shocking. It's absolutely shocking what has happened. GenesisRadio.co.uk.
Yes, hi, yes, I heard it.
Did you hear that? Yeah.
Yes.
What's your thoughts on
also
that?
Also, the 1st of July, the demonstration outside Portland House, where the BBC is. I heard that.
Yeah.
But there's something else as well. A young woman called Nadia, I think she's a DJ, and she was interviewed by a company called Press TV UK.
Yeah.
And she voiced her doubts. I don't know whether I can put this on and you can listen to it. Hang on.
My name's Nadia, and I was born and raised in this area.
I can hear it.
Can you hear that?
I heard what happened, and I came down and I brought all my friends.
Can you hear it?
Yeah.
Barrels of clothes, and we bought unsold food and so much of everything. And I didn't want to watch the news because I didn't want to watch that my friends had died, so I didn't watch the news until I got back. After 15 hours of being on my feet, I came back for them to say that there were 17 people dead. Have you seen the building? There's more than 17 people dead. And then I thought, where are the missing people? Where's the list of the 500 people that live in that building, 600 people that live in their building? Where's the list on the news? The list on the news shows about 10 people. Or 15 people. Okay, let's just say they show 30 people. Where's the rest? Where's the rest of the 500 people? Why is everyone walking around with missing on their? Where is everyone? Where are the victims? Why are we doing this? Why are we doing it? We're packing boxes. We're sending food. We're packing to who? They've died. So all they need to do is they need to pack these boxes and they need to sell them. Not send it to Oxfam or Red Cross, because Red Cross and Oxfam are not here helping us. This is the community that are helping us. So you're going to send all this stuff to Oxfam and Red Cross, and they don't deserve it. The people that deserve it are the people that died in that building because they wanted to make it look pretty, and it's an inferno. They burnt them. It was gone in 5 minutes. 15 minutes it took to burn. Who's alive? Where are they?
Okay, have you heard it?
Yes, I heard that. Yeah. Someone sent that to me.
Yeah, well, that's available.
Do you want to turn it off now? Do you want to turn it off?
Yes. But the thing is, there's so many questions being asked about the victims. Where are they?
Yeah, where are they?
This woman, she voiced an opinion, and that is shared by a lot of people.
Yeah, because I got that as well. Yeah,
either live in the area, have got friends or families who was caught up in the tragedy, and there are people more or less on the ground, so to speak, and they're asking these questions: where are the victims? No, I can't answer that. No, I don't know. But the mere fact is, these questions are being asked by the community at large.
Well, yeah, because
these questions need to be answered.
They need to be answered, absolutely, because these people, they live in that area, and they know, their friends. They have missing friends, they have missing families, they have missing daughters, sisters, and so they know these people are missing. I mean, there's 600 people living in that tower. And so, if you only got to designate 68 flats in these luxury flats, and we're going to talk about those least luxury flats in a minute, I mean, then so, yeah, where are the rest of the people? And to say that to consistently put the message out that these people are missing, if the people have not been found, if the people haven't been rescued from Glenfield Tower, then they are dead. They are dead, which is similar to what this lady is saying. And so, as she's saying, they're just trying to pretty up their dirty politics, their crime. That's what they're trying to do. I mean, I read recently that the police are now saying that some will never be found. I mean, what sort of thing is that, Paul?
Yeah, they said that they burned beyond recognition. It was like a cremation there.
Jesus Christ!
It was that
Excuse
hot.
me.
It was that hot that the bodies would have been cremated.
My God. Do you know what? I was watching, I don't know if I have it here, but I was watching something where a young man was talking about how, he had to get out the flat, and he managed to get his wife, he managed to rescue his wife. And I think it was like a 4-year-old daughter he had, and he managed to rescue her. And there was a Muslim man, sitting on the bed, and his son, or there was a young, I don't know if it was his son or something, and his son is only 2, and he felt so traumatized that he couldn't even rescue that 2-year-old because he had his daughter on the back, and I think he was the person that put out the rope, the rope down the tower, and he had to think quick. Did you hear that? And so he felt really sort of traumatized because he couldn't even help the man. So the man started to do his prayers, because he knew that he was going to die, and that young man that was sitting on the bed, that young lad that he couldn't even rescue, he died alive. I mean, and then, what's so shocking, Paul? There's been no arrest yet. Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking there should be immediate arrest. I mean, what are they? I mean, as this other young man said that we heard the recording, they're shredding, aren't they? I mean, why isn't there immediate arrest? As you said, if it was members of our own community, if this happened in countries outside of the UK, there would be immediate arrests, wouldn't there?
Oh yeah, they've been arrested, been condemnation, they've been dragging them to the international courts. There's been all kinds of issues, but this is unbelievable.
Shocking, isn't it? Shocking.
And these privileged few people are getting away with it. This is unbelievable.
Unbelievable. I just can't. It's just. It's really shocking to think that we're living in the UK that's supposed to be a democratic society, in light with what's happened to our forefathers and our ancestors that fought discriminatory practices, to see this in 21st century Britain where people are being burnt alive for the rich, for profit, for gain. And these people don't even they don't butt an eyelid. I mean, I was listening to an interview with the chief exec of the council in Kensington, and he was far removed. He showed no compassion. I mean, what are these people built with?
I mean, what surprises me right now is that I've not heard anything. I'm not saying that nothing's come up, but I've not heard anything in Lewisham, because there are some high-rise blocks in this borough. And I'm trying to ask some of the councillors, those who would answer back, because a lot of the councillors do not think that they have to answer you. I'm trying to ask them whether or not they feel that this incident can happen in this borough. And I think everyone have got a responsibility to make sure that their councillors answer them. Sit on their doorsteps 24/7 if you have to, but make sure that you get answers from these people who will be democratically voted in to look after our interests. Make sure that they are doing just that and not just drawing the money on going to the pub or whatever have you, but they are working to make sure that the people in the respective boroughs feel confident that they are being properly looked after. I'm not saying that all councillors are the same, but a lot of the councillors are just there for the beer, so to speak.
And so, they are there for the beer. I mean, you know, there's countless stories about how the councillors sit on the fence, and you know, they don't you know, listen to the people. You know, I have so many incidences myself. You know, I'm sort of thinking, guess what? They would run you down to pay the council tax, wouldn't they? You have to pay the council tax. If you don't pay the council tax, you go to court, and you know, sometimes you get prison sentence. You know, you get all sorts of things on your record, and yet these councillors have got the nerve that when you write to them about a dispute or an issue as a tenant or as a constituent member, you know, paying your taxes, they just sit on the fence and they do jack all. I mean, aren't they elected to serve the people, these councillors?
Like I said, you know, I can name a few, but you know, it wouldn't be right and proper to do that at the moment because they're not there on the areas to answer for themselves. In fact, they never do. They never do.
Far removed from the people, and so all they're doing is just receiving their checks, aren't they, and living their cushy lives while the people on the ground, as usual, they're the ones that actually suffer, don't they?
Yeah, and not only that, but enjoying the privileges. There's a lot of issues in education, in mental health. You know, the mental health issues in this borough is unbelievably atrocious. I mean, a lot of people in this borough are suffering because of downright incompetence.
I can imagine.
The mental health issues. I deal with this. It's not something I'm reading from a paper.
Yeah.
It's something that I'm dealing with.
Well, do you know what, Paul? I've experienced it. Do you know, me and you, people like me and you, we're not talking, poppycock here. You know, we're talking from things that we've lived, where we've experienced. I mean, I experience it on a daily basis. I'm talking from experience. You know, these people.
You know, we are there when these things happen. I can tell you things about the mental health facilities, or the lack of facilities, the lack of caring.
They do not care. I mean, these people, right? Look at this. Look what happened in Glenfield Tower with these residents. I mean, immediately. I mean, these people have suffered major traumas. They've seen their family members and friends being burnt alive. I mean, this is just serious trauma here. And then there was nothing in place in terms of, you know, support. I mean, later on after the complaints, it was highlighted, but nothing immediate. And even in terms of, you know, the distribution of the contributions from the community, there was nothing organized. There was nothing organised, and that feeble apology from Teresa May in the Houses of Parliament in terms of how apologetic they are because of the failed action of the government is just not good enough. They should be out of government because they're voted in to serve the people. These people don't know what it is to serve the people, do they? I mean, we got the wrong peoples elected, haven't we?
I think what we should do right now, right? We have to learn lessons ourselves about what has happened, and what we can. And I'd like you to do this for me. You know, I could give you my email address. Yeah. Hello.
Yeah, please do. What is it? Let me write it down now. What is it?
I will set a.
Text me. Yeah, text it to the studio.
Yeah.
Yeah, text it to the studio.
My email address. My number, my mobile number, and my Facebook page, and you can see see what we're having to deal with. And on Monday, I'm going to a school to address the issue of what I can determine as being an abuse of a pupil who have some sort of issues, you know, because he's not addressing the full curriculum. And from what I can see, the school is taking advantage of these people, has taken advantage of his parents as well. And the whole issues are being pushed under the carpet, and we don't have enough people on the outside of these environments that we can talk to and have these environments addressed.
Yeah, it's shocking, isn't it?
If push comes to shove, we will have to call names. If these officials don't step up to the plate, we will call them out.
Yeah, I mean, it would have to, you know, be that way in terms of if we've got agencies that have been set up by the government or outside community, you know, outside our community with voluntary sector or whatever sector there is out there, and the agencies are failing us, then yeah, we need to expose these people so that, you know, we can get the, you know, justice, because these people cannot be allowed to continue, you know, illegally, you know, practicing, you know, or pretending to be serving the people when they're not. Paul, I'm going to take a bit of a break. Before I go, I want to play, I don't know how long this documentary is, but just to end this talk on Glenfield Tower, because we're going to go on to something else, and we're going to go on to a community issue, which is sort of conducive to what you're talking about. We're going to be talking later on, you know, about this young brother, Edson. Have you heard about what happened to him?
I don't think so. Refresh your memory.
He's a young man that was sprayed by. Let me tell you what happened. He's actually in a life support with his neck broken in 2 places because of the injuries that, you know, that he actually had, you know, or, you know, bear the brunt of, you know, because he was stopped by the police. And this is quite recent. This happened on the 16th of June, which is quite recent. And I know that there's been lots of support and campaigns, and there's a GoFundMe page in his support, but it's quite tragic what's happened to this young man. He's a young man he's a father, and it's just absolutely, you know, harrowing in light of everything we've suffered. I mean, as a people, I mean, you know, are we going to, you know, as this young man said in the video so rightly, what is it, you know, that they have against us as black people? I mean, we're human beings, for God's sake. If you were going to cut our veins, Paul, we do bleed the same blood, don't we?
One of the things that we have to realize, and quite sharply, and it's ironic, but it needs to be said, if we do not put a stop to this rubbish, it will not stop.
And it will continue.
People who've got to put a stop to it.
We've got to put a stop to it, because
have to put a stop to it.
Yeah, I mean, Paul, we've got. I mean, I'm a mother of 4. I've got, you know, 4 kids. I'm worried for them. You know, when I leave this earth, I'm worried for them. I'm worried for our children. I'm worried for our next generation. If we don't put a stop to it, if we don't put a stand, if we don't ask the right questions, if we don't position ourselves in the place where we can make the right decisions, that's going to impact our community, that's going to help our community, then my God, is, as you said, Paul, it's not going to stop. It's going to continue. It's going to impact our children, the next generation, our grandchildren, and they're going to continue murdering our people, Paul.
But having said that, we also need to look at our very own black people.
Absolutely.
In of power. In our own black people.
That we vote in.
Who claim to be doing things in the community, and all they do is apply for grant funding. I know them.
Yeah, you know them well. You know them well.
All they do is apply to this lottery or the lottery funding, and they get it because they know people on the inside. That is why I use the term dog whistle project. And when they get the money, they just waste it.
And so
themselves. They do not do anything
for the community.
That's why we are still here in the same position year after year after year. The same issues.
Okay, so we got our own. So it's all good. I mean, it's not all good. You know, we do need to, you know, to call into question, you know, the fat cats, the wealthy, that, you know, that those people that are culpable of the murders and impacting our community. However, as you said, so rightly said, Paul, there are people in our community, dog whistlers, who are benefiting from our community. These so-called pretending community leaders that are milking the system internally in terms of grant funding, and, you know, pretending that they're actually helping our community, and they're not helping no one but themselves. So they are just as guilty as, you know, the people, you know, the fat cats. They're just as guilty, aren't they? You know, so that's the thank you, Paul, for highlighting that, because that's the issue that we've got with even our own community. That's why we can't go forward. That's why we can't move forward, because we've got people in our own community, you know, destabilising us, sabotaging good people's effort for us to move forward. And so, yes, you know what, Paul, if nothing's been done, we need to start exposing these people so that they can stop. We need to do that, because we cannot afford for these people to continue, because they've been continuing, as you said, year in, year out, dog whistling, you know, getting all the funding. As you said, they've got their inside people in there, and they dog whistle to their cliques and to their friends and their mates, and they're pretending that they're helping us, and they're not doing jack for our community. These people need to be exposed.
We don't move. Have you ever noticed that every year there's the same problem, there's the same issue? Every year.
I'm tired of it, Paul. I don't know about you, but I'm tired of it. I'm really tired of it, you know? I'm a person that likes to take action. I've sacrificed my Sunday. You know, I could be out sunbathing or going to the seaside or whatever, but you know what? We need to wake up as a community. I'm tired of these dog whistlers, and I call them community pimps that are pimping off our plight, pimping off our situation. You know, call black, you know, I'm somebody that calls black, you know, I don't mix up my talk, Paul. They're community pimps, community prostitutes, prostituting their way, you know, at the plight of the black community. Good people, Jesus, man, these people need to be stopped.
They wouldn't stop until we stop them.
We have to stop them. You know what, Paul? You know, feel free to hand their names to me. I'll expose them for you. I don't feel no way. Yeah? Give them to me. I'll expose them on the radio station because guess what? They need to be stopped. These people need to be stopped because I'm absolutely tired of it. Tired of it, Paul. I don't know about you, but I'm tired of it. I'm concerned about I'm concerned about the next generation. Really concerned.
What we need to do? What we need to do is to make sure that people like funding bodies, right, give us the program of who they're funding. I try to do this in tourism without a great deal of success. Tell us the funding, the amount of money that the public is being paid, that the public is paying to these projects, what they're supposed to do, and what is the evaluation that has been done to ensure that they are doing this work.
Yeah, where is the track, isn't it? Where is the track? Where's the outcome? Where is the, you know, that's it, the paper trail. That these people, these pimps, these prostitutes that are prostituting our community, that are pimping our community, black leaders, so-called community leaders that are pimping our community with their dog whistling tactics. We need accountability. We need a track. We need an evaluation. We need to see the outcome of your projects that you're supposedly supposed to be helping us with. I mean, when you see places like Lewisham Way being boarded up and shut down, I know that place was run by members of our very own black community that are supposed to be bloody serving us.
Lily, I've known Genesis when they had the office there. From time. You understand me? From time. I've been going down there to meetings on a Monday evening when the meetings were there. Right? And from a long, long time.
So what's happened, Paul? What's happened?
From the best of my knowledge, the Lewisham Way community has provided an invaluable service to the youth in this community. And the reason it's being shut, we need to question. They have to answer to us. They have to tell us why this center is being closed.
Isn't there a freedom?
Isn't there a provision have you provided for the people who used to use that center?
But isn't there a freedom of information thing? Can't you not call it up on the freedom of information?
You shouldn't have to do that.
You shouldn't have to do that.
You should be able to bring these counselors to the table and say, right, you have been put there by us. You tell us why you have decided to close these centers and tell us what provisions are being put into place. That is what we should be demanding.
We should be holding them to account.
Black or white makes no difference. You sit down and you tell the people.
Yeah, but Paul, you know the sad irony with this is what you said it so rightly. We can do that. You know, we can orchestrate meetings and you know call them to account, which we should. However, as you said so rightly, they are community pimps and prostitutes. You know, they look like us. They wear their bikishi, you know, the African attire. They quote their Robin Walkers and their, you know, whatever they want to quote. Yeah, they talk the talk. Yeah. And they do jack for our community, but they don't walk the walk. Yeah, they look like us. You know, some of those even talk like us to a point, but they do not walk the walk. Yeah, community pimps and prostitutes.
They're all there to sit down and they decide. You know, they're like these little.
They're like leeches. They're like leeches. Parasites, I call them. Parasites.
Yeah. You know when the car moves, these turtle dogs, they sort of just nod.
Yeah,
but that's what they're like.
Yeah.
They are no use. They serve no practical purpose.
Yeah.
Being in the positions
that they're in.
They have. I know in this borough, centers that are losing money, but they're just there. These people, they just clog up the management with their mates and their families, whoever have it, just to make it look good. But these centres are being run down.
So basically, as a community, we've been raped by these people, isn't it? Let's call it as it. We've been raped by these people, haven't we? Our own community's raping us.
Yep.
Good God. Paul, I'm going to take a break. This is too much.
The adaptation of the missionary position.
God,
we need to look at that.
My God. Paul, send me a text with all your details. I need to continue this conversation with you on a private level and really meet up with you. I'm going to take a bit of a break. Before I'm going to play something here. I just want you to listen to this. Listen to this, Paul. It's a documentary that was actually conducted in 1984 in terms of, Glenfield Tower. This is interesting stuff. Listen to this.
Okay.
Speak to you later.
With no alternative accommodation, many councils are desperately trying to remedy the defects in their system-built housing stock so that their tenants can go on living in them. A new industry has sprung up, offering methods of repairing the systems. Tower blocks hundreds of feet high are being completely recovered or reclad in new materials, guaranteed to prevent rain reaching the joints.
The only way that you can repair the present industrialised systems is by the use of other untried and untested remedial works. And we already have evidence of some of those repair systems failing because they've been inadequately researched and evaluated.
What sort of risks do you think there are from using systems that haven't been appraised properly?
Well, to take a very obvious one, there's the fire risk, and I think it's absolutely essential that anything that is being placed on or around existing blocks should be considered very carefully in relation to a serious fire.
On the question of a fire risk, do you think that there are now systems being used which represent a fire risk?
Frankly, yes.
Would you be prepared to name them?
No.
I do believe that there are blocks that, blocks of flats that, if action is not taken speedily, will provide a major risk to the people who live in them in the future.
Okay, that was a documentary that was taken in 1984, and just imagine, look how many years ago was that, and we have the situation of Grenfell fire, and the impact, as we know so rightly, particularly even in the borough of Camden, where residents are being forced to evacuate their flats because they have a similar cladding. I'm going to see you in a little while. It's Angela Newbia on the People's Talk Show on genesisradio.co.uk. Angela Newbia on the People's Talk Show. Just want to thank Paul for his contributions there. I love that man, that, loyal listener. Have a lovely conversation with him, real talk, because, he knows a lot of things that are really going right down, He's just calls a spade, and, we're tired of you community leaders, you black people in our community pretending that you're really checking for us and you care for us and you are just dog whistling in your projects, just giving your friends and your confidants, funds and funding to fund their sham projects that's not actually profiting nobody but yourselves and your team and your cliques. And so you're just as bad as these fat cats. So there's no point you standing and arguing and complaining about fat cats and capitalism when you are even, raping your own people in your own community. Stop it! Because if you don't stop it, Me, I go expose you. Me, I tell you that. And make sure you hear that on the Real Talk, on the People's Talk Show, 07931 276 232. And you know why I'm going to expose you? Because I'm looking out for my people then. I'm looking out for my children. You know, I've got 4 kids, mate. I want to make sure that they're going to be, living in this society where they're not going to be, pimped and prostituted by, people that are coming up into their generation by learning your foul malpractice. Stop what you're doing, man. Have some conscience. My God, think about, the community at large and stop being so selfish and thinking about you and your protected few. You're disgusting. You are a disgrace to your community, and you're going to be exposed soon if you don't stop what you're doing, because you've been doing it for too long. Milking the community in the name of community leadership. What do you think? What you take this thing for? My God, I'm just shocked and horrified and disgruntled by you people. Just to end this talk on Glenfield Tower, that tune is going out to, because I'm going to be talking about a brother, a 20-year-old brother that died. His name is Eldin, is it Federico Di Casta? I'm going to be talking about him. Death in custody in Beckton. East London, 25-year-old brother. I mean, I've got a 22-year-old son, for God's sake. This death in police custody keeps happening, keeps occurring. Nothing's changing. These police people, when are they going to stop murdering our people and stop manhandling our people? I mean, we've had all this stuff going on in America and manhandling our people and, choke locking them and stuff. We're not animals. We're human beings. If you're not burning us to death, or burning us alive, you want to kill us too. Stop it, man. We're human beings. Have some, humanistic, feel. I mean, who are you people? My God, I'm going to see you in a minute. Angela Nubia on the People's Talk Show, Genesis radio.co.uk. Oppressor, ease up the pressure. You know what I mean? Ease it up because, it's too much, man. We people, ethnic people, all people, poor people, working class people, we're tired of the sufferings, just to end this bit on Glenfield Tower, because we're going to be talking about this brother here that was held in custody by the police in Beckton, and he's now deceased, and there's been so many deaths, in police custody, as you know. But just to end this thing on Camden's Council, I was absolutely, I couldn't, I don't even know, words defeat me. I was horrified to hear that, some of the residents that are living in this luxury apartment had the nerve, they had the audacity to complain. Can you believe these people complaining? They were complaining about the fact that they're going to rehouse the people that suffered so much trauma in Glenfield Tower. They were complaining, big time. Some of them, were suggesting that, they should not have any use of the pool. They should not have any use of the gym. I mean, Jesus. I mean, are these people for real? Complaining. I mean, these people have seen their loved ones and their families die alive, burnt to death, to the point that the police says that they can't even, some will never be found because they've been cremated. Yeah? And you have the nerve to start talking about you don't want these people to use your gym. You lot really got this thing twisted. You rich fat cats, you evil, wicked, capitalist people, that you would complain about a gym and a pool. Really check yourself. Let me just remind you, I don't really, I don't go church or anything like that. But let me just tell you something about the rich man here. There is a rich man, apparently there's a rich man in the Bible, yeah? And he said, oh God, I'm so rich, I'm so rich. I'm going to really extend my land here because I'm so rich. So rich. I'm going to expand my land, wow, I'm so rich. Really sort of, thinking that, he's made it. I'm going to expand my boundaries because, I've got so much money here. And you know what the father said to the rich man, dear? Thou fool. Thou fool. Look at you. Thou fool. Because tonight I require your soul. Yeah? You rich people. Rich, profiting from the poor. oppressing the poor. Thou fool. Father said to say, your soul might be required tonight, so watch yourself. Angela Nubia on the People's Talk Show.
Hello?
Hello, Angela Nubia on the People's Talk Show.
Hi. Good afternoon.
Good
afternoon.
afternoon.
I just wanted to, I've been listening for a little while now, and I just wanted to say, condolences to all those people at Glenfield that have lost friends, families, homes, relatives. And I'm just a little bit, disappointed because I was hoping to hear some good news today. I mean, it's been, more than a week now, and I've heard some horrific stories about what's happened to the survivors of that terrible inferno. And I was hoping that somebody could ring in to let us know, about the survivors, whether they've successfully now been put in touch with each other so they can support each other, having had that horrific experience, and whether or not they've received any type of counselling, whether they've truly been supported. I mean, financial means, obviously, the government's talking about them, giving them money. All these people are collecting money in their name. This body's made a record, that body's made a record. But the reality is that I can't even begin to fathom, because I'm somebody that's not involved in the fire. I'm somebody who has not lost any relatives or friends in the fire, and I am struggling with it. So I can't even begin to imagine how they are coping, from then till now.
Yeah,
they must be still walking around in some kind of nightmare.
Absolutely.
And I just wondered if there was anybody out there listening today, that has
some good news,
some kind of knowledge
Yeah.
of how these people are being supported, because the media's, the normal media's not giving it. I mean, I'm trawling social media and I'm getting little dribs and drabs, but I kind of have heard everything that you played out on the show today, and I think you've done a good job of comprehensively, putting forward what people may or may not have already heard.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, like you.
Anyway.
Thank you for the call. I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, sis. Well, you continue with your show. And I mean, I understand that the next upcoming topic is a horrific thing also. But I would just like to commend those ones who did come forward and give help. And, for anybody who can, I mean, I gave my money directly to people that were collecting on the scene. I didn't pay my money to any organisation.
Yeah.
For Glenfield, I gave a contribution
directly.
Directly.
Yeah.
At the scene.
Yeah.
And I would urge people to do that, to really be careful about who they're giving money to support people. I mean, this GoFund page seems to be a legitimate thing, so I will look into, trying to support that brother's family in their fight for justice.
Definitely.
And that's all I'd like to say, sis. Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you very much. Thank you. Great. Thank you very much, caller, for that. And is there anyone listening? Yeah, I'd advocate what that sister just said. Anyone listening to genesisradio.co.uk on the airwaves, globally, nationally, locally? And if you've got any sort of valid information that you can provide us in terms of whether the residents of Glenfield Tower are receiving any ready sort of, counselling, have they been able to galvanise themselves, as a community, as a family, with their loved ones? Are they receiving any sort of treatment, any support in terms of, the trauma that they've received? It will be highly welcomed. I mean, in another show, I'm sure that we will be able to extend that and invite the residents to talk if that has been achieved. And so I just put it out there. Anyone that's listening, if you know of any knowledge, any sort of support, psychological support, mental support, any sort of support in terms of the Glenfield fire victims, then let us know. 07931 276 232. Angela Nubia on the People's Talk Show, as we're ending the talk on the Glenfield Tower. Before I end it, as I mentioned to you, I was sort of appalled by, the audacity of some of the residents to complain in terms of, where the residents are going to be located, And as I said, have a bit of heart, and I'm going to end it there. Okay, and so we're going to talk about this brother here, Federico de Casta. He's known as Edson. He died in custody. It's really harrowing, this account. Particularly, when you're a mother and you've got sons. I've got 2 boys. I've got 2 sons. I mean, this young man he's 25, and as I said, I've got a son who's 22, and I've got a son who's 13. It's worrying. On the 16th of June, he was with 3 people in a vehicle, and he was stopped in Beckton around 10 p.m. on the 16th of June. Police used force to arrest him. They pepper sprayed him at the scene. He had a heart attack and was pronounced dead. Edson was revived by paramedics on the scene and put into an induced coma, but he was brain dead. He was already dead. Yeah, he was already dead. After being kept on life support, this was actually turned off on Tuesday. Yeah, that's last Tuesday. And I'm reading this. This is an account. I want people to make sure that I'm quoting the right thing here, so that people don't want to come and attack me. Most of the things that I've been talking about is already out in the media. For those agents that are working for those parties, yeah, they're all in the media. I'm quoting from your own press, some of it, and obviously, as the sister said, I've been provided with the accounts of residents from the Glenfield fire and etc. And so, okay, this is an account by the Newham Recorder, and they reported that the post-mortem has concluded that there were no injuries to suggest severe force was used on Edson. I mean, that's quite strange, isn't it? So if you've been stopped by the police and you've been arrested and you've been pepper sprayed, and then you suffer a heart attack, and then you're pronounced dead, and then there's no report by the coroner that there's been any sort of suggestions of severe force, then I question that, don't you? Quite shocking. And so I'm just reading the report here. It says, in a statement on Facebook, however, the family member wrote that the injuries included a fractured skull. This has been written by a family member on the Facebook page of this brother Edson. A family member has mentioned that the injuries included a fractured skull, which was not reported by the media, fallen voice box, and a ruptured bladder, amongst other injuries. And, as Paul so rightly says, and as so many have said, we can't really, feed off the media because, they cherry pick what they're going to tell us. They're not telling us the real news. And so, we need to really get our stories straight and our information straight. So the family have said that the injuries did not include a fractured skull. Can you believe that? A fractured skull. This is just a traffic arrest. Yeah, or a traffic stop, and so it didn't include his injuries. Was not included in the report of the media or in the coroner, who said that that there's no evidence to suggest any force was made. But yet, why did this brother suffer a fractured skull, fallen voice box, and a ruptured bladder, amongst other injuries? So where did these injuries come from? Then the brother was all right before. A friend of the family on Twitter mentioned that Edson's vertebra had been snapped, and that while he was foaming at the mouth, police had said he was okay. Jesus Christ. Don't these people listen? Don't these people, after so many deaths in police custody, I mean, why are they still killing our people? Why are they still killing our youths? Why are they still killing our black men? Why are they still killing our people? I mean, what is it? As the brother said on social media, what is it that you have against us? That you delight, that you take pleasure in murdering our people. What is it? I want to read that again. A family friend on Twitter mentioned that Edson's vertebra had been snapped. It had been snapped. And that while he was forming in the mouth, the police had the nerve, the audacity to even ask him if he was okay. I mean, are these people for real? I mean, who are these people, patrolling and governing our streets? Who are they? How can we have faith in the police service when they continue to do all these type of things there to our people? This could be my son. So are you telling me that my son can be driving a vehicle and he's going to be stopped by the police and then he can end up dead? On the street of the UK in this 21st century? Caller. Hello, caller.
We fucking apia.
Okay. And so that's one deluded caller that's calling, think it's a joke. And so, the case has parallels to the police killings of Freddie Gray. And you remember the story of Freddie Gray, don't you? In a police van in Baltimore in 2015, leading to the mass protest over his death. Prosecutions of the officers involved in Freddie Gray's death did not result in any convictions. Do you hear that? And so, in terms of Freddie Gray's murder, it did not result in any prosecution. So these people are allowed to murder us in cold blood, knowing that they're not going to actually face any prosecutions. We had another brother, Julian Cole, that was left in a vegetable state after being carried to a police car in Bedford in 2013. And the CPS announced that it will not be charging the police involved in Julian Cole's arrest earlier that year. So police brutality is a regular occurrence in the UK, as in the USA. And the IPCC and the CPS rarely prosecutes police officers. And there has been no conviction from the death in police custody since 1969. There has rarely been prosecution over deaths. Yeah? There has been no convictions for death in police custody since 1969. There's been no convictions. This requires mass protest and organisation in order to gain even the basics of accountability of the police. But in the end of this, the only accountability police force can there be a police force? I mean, good God. How can we have faith in the police service if they're murdering our children, murdering our fathers, murdering our brothers? It's Angela Nubia on the People's Talk Show. Give me a call. 07 931 276 232. What the hell is going on? I'm going to see you in a bit. 07 Angela Nubia on genesisradio.co.uk. We're sending out an SOS out there in the community to stop killing our sons, stop killing our people, That's the SOS we're sending out today. I'm horrified. 07931 276 232. Justice for Edson. He has a GoFundMe account, so go to that GoFundMe account and support the family, because this is just absolutely unbelievable. It's absolutely unacceptable that a traffic incident, and as I said, there's so many deaths in police custody that has happened, within the years, within the centuries. I mean, since 1969, there has not been a conviction. Yep, there has not been a conviction for deaths in police custody since 1969. And so, what are we going to do? Are we going to just sit at the fence and turn the other cheek as, what happened when they killed all those black people in the church? Are we going to say we forgive them and turn our other cheek? Or what are we going to do? I mean, this is our children. I mean, Edson is 25 years old, My son is 22. I mean, I'm sure all of you mothers out there, you've got sons, fathers, you've got sons, we've got uncles, we've got cousins. I mean, if you're, boyfriends, husbands, partners, a member of your family could be stopped for a minor traffic incident. And is he going to be ended with, on the life support machine? Injuries. Yeah? Injuries, severe injuries. I mean, this is some serious shit here. How can arrest? He was stopped from a vehicle at Beckton at 10 p.m. And soon after, he had a heart attack. After his contact with the police, who used force to arrest him, pepper spraying him. And I think if I'm right, I think they pepper sprayed him to the point that he was even blind. Yeah? He lost his sight completely. After being pepper sprayed, he lost his sight completely. This young man, he had sight. His family are trying to raise money for his funeral. Go on the GoFundMe page, and we need to support the family here. There's been talk that he's resisted arrest, all sorts of nonsense. To the point that someone's resisting arrest that he will now become blind. Someone's resisting arrest that he would suffer a heart attack and that he would die, that he would become brain dead. Then tell me about the fractured skull then. Tell me about the fallen voice box, the ruptured bladder, and the other injuries that he sustained. What happened there then? Did he injure himself? We're not foolish. We know what's going on. SOS to the people them that's trying to kill the black people them. Whether you're gonna burn us alive or burn us to death or spray us to death, blind us to death. SOS. Stop what you're doing. There's a Father. There's a Most High looking down to what you're doing. Stop what you're doing. And we people, we really need to take action. There's only been I'm not going to say there's only been. Remarkably, the GoFundMe account, Justice for Edson, has just been launched just 2 days ago. And the target is £5,000. Is their goal for a funeral for this young man. Support them. GoFundMe account, Justice for Edson. They've managed to raise £3,790. Please go on that page and support the family. And donate. And I'm going to give you some more information about that incident in a bit. I'll see you in a bit. Angela Nubia on the People's Talk Show, genesisradio.co.uk. What a situation that we're living in, in UK, Britain. Our ancestors, right, will be sort of rolling up in their grave to see, after all their sacrifices that they've made, that, not change. After 50 years of, civil rights movement, of, fighting injustice, not change. Our parents came to this country, and, they came to, so many, injustice, and we are the children of our parents, and nothing has not changed. They're still killing our people. They're still murdering us, and they're getting away with it. I mean, from 1969, nobody has been convicted of an incident in terms of death in police custody. I mean, what sort of justice is this? I mean, these bodies, the IPPC and all these other bodies, I mean, what are they there for? Who's regulating them? Because there's nobody, nobody's been held accountable for these murders, just as the Glenfield Tower. Who's been held accountable? I mean, are these people going to get away with murder? Are we going to sit down as a community and turn the other cheek? and say 2 prayers. What are we going to do about this? This is just not right. You know, we have a right, like everyone else. You know, you have, I think the other day you had EDL, you know, they were protesting in Birmingham, you know. They had the right to campaign. We have the right to peaceful process, to campaign. We have a right. I mean, I've got some information here, and I'm going to, you know, I'm going to just put it out there, particularly in light of the brother Paul that called earlier on. We have too many people in our community, you know, trying to profit off, you know, things like this that happened, you know, innocent things, innocent victims. Too many people in our community, you know, that try to profit for their own means, to just get their ego out there and create their own platform for their own good. Yeah? And I just want to put it out there that the family wants to make sure that everybody knows, this is the Edson family, they want to make sure that Black Lives Matter UK did not organise no protests. Yeah? They're organising a peaceful protest, and Black Lives Matter UK are not responsible for that protest. And so Black Lives Matter campaigners UK, get off the campaign trail and stop hijack good people things, victim people things, yeah? Does it belong to you? What are you doing? So if the family wants to make sure the community know that Black Lives Matter UK, whoever they are, they're not interested. You know, they did not organise no campaign. They did not organise no campaign in the first place. So I don't know why they're trying to, you know, as they always do so well, hijack people's campaign for their own good. You lot have been whited off ever since foolish incident at the airport. Just sit down and be quiet. So the family wants to make sure that Ununose out there, all the listeners out there, please send the message out for the family, the Edson family, in light of their tragedy, that their young man, their family member, Edson, 25, is dead. He's been murdered. Yeah? Since he got in contact with the police, since that arrest, that traffic incident, he was fine before. He's got a young son. This could be your son. This could be your nephew. This could be your cousin. This could be your uncle. What are you going to do about it? Sit down and turn the other cheek? The family wants you to know that Black Lives Matter UK did not organise the event in the first place. The family have simply withdrawn their support. So Black Lives Matter UK has got nothing to do with this campaign. So make sure you lot got it right. They've got nothing to do with the campaign. The family did not elect them. You know, the family are not interested. They are saying that everybody has been afforded the right to protest except black people, which is true. If you want black people to stay calm and peaceful, stop killing black people. Simples. The family wants you to know that justice for Edson is still going ahead. We have the right as black people to assemble. We have the right for peaceful protest. We have the right to speak. We have the right to echo our concerns. We are human beings. We are part of the human race. And we know the government wants to abandon the courts of human rights and all them things. But we are human beings living in this country, born in this country, and we have the right for peaceful protest. We have the right to assemble, just like you gave EDL the right and other people the right. We have the right to protest and assemble, and the family wants to know that the assemble and the protest is still going ahead. So black community, I want you to stand by this family. Sunday the 25th, which is today, as the show is going on, they met today at 2 p.m. at Forest Gate Station. Yep. For a peaceful protest, and we know we're going to hear about it. Yeah? Justice for Edson. It's probably still going ahead as I'm speaking. We have the right for peaceful protest. We're human beings. We're not animals. Even animals have rights. You don't give animals more rights than human beings. You put animals' rights before black rights. You're saying that you lot can still kill our people and then we must stay in silence and turn the other cheek? You lot got it twisted. We have the right for peaceful protest. We have a right to advocate our voice. We have a right to assemble in the name of justice for our people. Because we are part of the human race. We have a right. See you in a bit. Angela Nubia, genesisradio.co.uk. Don't shoot the messenger. Yeah? Don't shoot the messenger, because the message has to be told. Yeah? There's loads of you out there propagating your messages. And as members of the black community, we have the right to propagate our message. We have a right as a part of the human race to propagate our messages, to ensure the safety of our community, to ensure the safety of our people, the safety of our children. We have the right. We have the right to speak. We have the right to assemble. We have the right for peaceful protest. We have our right for our voices to be heard. We have a right. So don't shoot the messenger. Real talk. Angela Newbia on genesisradio.co.uk. I just want to thank all the people that have called in the studio and have contributed to the show. I just want to remind you again of that GoFundMe account, Justice for Edson. They've managed to raise, remarkably, £3,790. Their goal is £5,000. Perhaps we can actually exceed that goal. Sorry about that. We've managed to raise £3,790 already. Just want to remind you of what happened to Edson. He could be your brother, your sister's brother, your cousin, your uncle. He's dead. Yeah, he's actually dead. Yeah, he sustained so many injuries after a traffic stop. And there's been so many traffic stops, haven't they, facing members of our own community. There's been so many traffic incidents, traffic stops, haven't they? Yeah. On the 16th of June, 10 p.m. in Beckton, they're perhaps protesting right now because they're meeting today. And the protest is going ahead. And they just want you to know that Black Lives Matter is not in charge of that protest. So, do continue to support them. We have so many people, as I said, members of our own community, that hijack good people's works for their own personal gain. And we're telling those people in our community to stop it. We've talked at length with so many things. We've talked about the election. We've talked about what makes a strong and stable leadership. And we know so well that Teresa May doesn't represent that for the country. We talked about how she already had a majority government, and she, was brave in thinking that she could actually manipulate a situation where Corbyn had a weak moment and felt that she could, galvanise on that, which it backfired because she doesn't actually present herself as being strong and stable. I mean, the favourite slogan for her is Calamity May. Made so many U-turns. She apparently has no manifesto. She's not been governed by anything. I mean, I don't know what she's doing. I mean, I want to salute a man here that Paul, I think, mentioned, or was it Burgett that called early on, that, he hasn't changed. In all the years that he's been in government, I commend that man. I've got my doubts on the Labour Party and some of the councillors that have been elected, etc. But Corbyn, a remarkable man. He represents strong and stable leadership for me, because in the midst of, onslaught, and I think I did a show about this before, in the midst of internal wars within his own party, personal betrayals, which many of us have actually succumbed, media onslaughts, ridicule, he stood strong and he was stable. He didn't turn to the left and he didn't turn to the right. He remained consistent. He was more prime ministerial in terms of the way he responded to the tragedy that happened in Glenfield Tower and the supposedly terrorist things that happened in London Bridge and Manchester. He was really a people's person, isn't it? And when we look at strong leadership, we're looking at someone that's there for the people, not there for personal gain. We're talking about a strong leader who's really there for the people, who's prepared to put his neck on the line and prepared to call a spade a spade. Someone that, is not going to be there for his friends and his cliques. It's going to be there for the people. Someone that can actually show emotion. Someone that can actually show some sort of empathy for the people. Someone that can actually be present. Someone that is stable. Someone that is strong in himself. Because after, enduring such onslaught by, members of his own party that tried to destabilise and sabotage his own government, he came out really strong and stable. To the point that, the party's actually, they're ready to serve the people. Because they can offer that. I mean, the manifesto speaks volumes, doesn't it? When we talk about leadership, we're talking about someone that has integrity, that is consistent, that is for the people, that has no secret agenda, that is not into this dog whistling tactic where only their mates get funding contracts, where they pimp and prostitute and rape their own community, where they pretend that they're for the people and they're really against the people, where they hide behind sex and, religious affiliations to pretend that they're for the people and they're actually against the people. When we're looking about a strong and when we reflect on what a strong and stable leadership represents, Kobe, he fits the bill because he's remained consistent over the years. A leader does not dilute his talk, dilute his mandate, dilute his agenda. He remains consistent. A strong and stable leadership does not bend to the people for personal gain. A strong and stable leader remains strong in the midst of adversity. He remains strong. So when we're talking about leadership and community leadership, and that's what we're talking about. So many people use this word so flimsy or recklessly in our community. I applaud Corbyn. What a man. That he was able to reach out to the young people in order to derail Calamity May's government to the tune of 262 votes at the last election. That even surprised his own internal parasites that were trying to dethrone him. And it's interesting that those very parasites are now willing to work with him because he's proved them wrong. I liked what a lot of the grime artists on the ground have said of Corbyn, They've said that he's one of us. He's like us because they voted for him. So many young people voted for him, particularly in constituencies as Canterbury, that has been Tory, similar to Kensington and Chelsea for hundreds of years, or for years, not hundreds of years, because they could, identify with Corbyn. He was he's one of us. He's been ridiculed, he's not accepted by the establishment, he's not accepted by the people. He faces a daily fight, like many of us. He's faced so many betrayals by personal people, confidants, like so many of us. But yet, he still offers this strong and stable government, and he's ready to serve. And so, if the Tory party are struggling with this coalition of danger, I would say, then, you know, just allow the man, allow the brother to serve the people, because we want someone that's real to serve the people. We know that May has ditched her manifesto pledges. She's omits her immigration targets. And we know that the Queen's speech was completely dressed down. And it was the first in many years that the ceremony saw the Queen without the crown of robes. So even the Queen's disgruntled. The mere fact that the Queen was there at Glenfield Tower, you know, touching the people and Prince William, and Teresa May was distancing herself from the people and, you know, just talking to the firefighters. I mean, that's enough, isn't it? I mean, a leader is someone that can, you know, identify with pain and struggle. Someone that's actually experienced it themselves. We're tired of these rich elites governing us. Milking the system. Not being held accountable for things and crimes that they've done. We're tired of it. And, you know, just like, or similar to how Colbyn was able to reach out to the young people, and, you know, for years we've seen for the first time many young people voting for the first time. It just shows, it demonstrates people's power. And I just want you to know, on the People's Talk Show on genesisradio.co.uk, let Angela Nubia tell you so, that people's power counts, that as a person you have the power to change things in this wicked world that we're living in. But guess what? It takes action. It takes a lot of bottle, it takes a lot of nerve, but guess what? You've got to be doing it for yourself and doing it for your children, for your community, for the next generation. I'm tired of the same old chat. Tired of it. I don't belong to no sect. I don't belong to no group. Me, I'm just Angela Nubia. Yeah? I'm for real. And so I just want to thank you for joining me on the People's Talk Show. Maybe next time around when it's my turn, I'm going to be there again. Tune into my show again, back as usual on genesisradio.co.uk on a Tuesday between the hours of 7 and 9, on a Saturday between the hours of 10 and 12. Again, I'm just going to make that appeal to support Justice for Edson campaign on GoFundMe account, and support any right to protest, right to assemble. Don't be intimidated by the elites. You have the right as a human being to protest, a right to assemble for justice. And before I go, I just want to say a prayer for the Glenfield family and for the Edson family. I just want to say a prayer here on the People's Talk Show, because I'm a spiritual person, you know. I mean, I go to no church, you know. I'm not affiliated to any religious thing, but I'm a spiritual person, you know. I don't need to be affiliated. I'm for real. Father, I pray for Glenfield Tower tenants. I pray for the victims of the fire. I pray for the families. I pray for those that have lost loved ones. The God who avenges, shine forth. Psalms 94. And pay back the proud what they deserve. How long will the wicked be jubilant? How long will the wicked be boastful? They say you don't see. They say you don't hear. But Father, you hear and you see. The God who avenges, shine forth and pay back the proud what they deserve. Grant justice for the people of Glenfield Tower. Grant justice for Edson's family and for all those that have died in police custody. Grant justice for those that have been oppressed by this elite system, whether it's in the education or in the mental health or in all sectors of society. Grant justice, Father, the God who avenges. Shine forth and pay back the proud what they deserve. Walk good, talk good. Angela Nubia signing out on the People's Talk Show. See you soon.